Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for tuning in. And I've got to say, we are finally here in a very big kind of way. We are finally clear of those group stages. We are finally ready to get stuck into the business end of the tournament, the play-ins, and then subsequently the play-offs for Korean Contenders Season 2 of 2021. Before we go any further, though, I am, of course, Matt Pixie AVRL. Joining me here is Kevin AVRL Walker. You already know him, and you probably already love him, but maybe you shouldn't. How you doing?
My parents love me.
I love you too.
One of them do, I confirm. The other one I'm still working on. I'll let you know how that goes.
Okay, keep me posted.
I'm glad we're here in a big way. I don't know what other way we could be here in, because yeah, okay, play-ins. We've officially started play-ins. I've officially ended Overwatch League play-ins, and I'm here for Contenders Korea play-ins.
Straight in from one to another.
Bam.
Absolutely.
So you know it's an upgrade as we go over towards two fantastic matches tonight to decide who gets to go into playoffs. So more eliminations happen. I eliminated 2 teams last night. Let's do it all again. Let's do it one more time. Run it back.
Exactly. And I mean, much like the Dune movie, this is going to be a great night, but we're not going to be able to get through this all in one sitting. So we have just the first 2 matches of the play-ins coming up tonight. The third remaining match of the play-ins will be taking place tomorrow. From the 4 teams going into play-ins, we will have 2 that get eliminated, 2 that carry on into the play-offs to meet the other 4 teams that have already directly qualified into the playoffs. Let's go ahead and take a look at the standings at the end of the season. This was a really fascinating end of things, I have to say, because as much as it was not possible for the standings to particularly change up or shift around a whole lot, teams were pretty much locked in from, a couple of weeks ago already. But still, the final day had some fascinatingly spicy matches in terms of their overall impact on the sort of soft power ranking of the teams moving forward. So you see there, JNGK and Incendia Evolution have both been eliminated. O2 Blast, T1, Talon, and CC all go directly into the playoffs. The remaining 4 teams, BM Hawk, GC Busan, Starlight Gaming, and WGS Phoenix, all go into the play-ins, and you can see very directly here who is now going to play who.
And what I find interesting about the groups as well is that at the end of the entire regular season here, I'm not too sure that any of the results really surprised anyone. You could have maybe swapped WGS and GC Busan at the start of the season. There's a world where BM Hawk didn't work out and Starlight could have taken their place, but I think Group A was pretty cut and dry in terms of the 4 teams we expected to get the top seeds, getting directly seeded into the playoffs. It was going to be the top 4 from our previous season. I think at the end of the day, the regular season ended pretty much exactly how we expected it to end. So as we move forward now, we start to get some cross-group action between A and B here. BM Hawk, 3rd seed, facing off against 3rd seed from Group B and GC Busan. Starlight Gaming, 4th seed from Group A, facing off against 4th seed from Group B and WGS as well. So the first time these 2 teams on either of these matches will be facing off against each other.
And it's a really interesting format as well, because we talk about how much the different seeding mattered, even between 3rd and 4th. And I feel like this is where we can really start to examine that, because obviously BM Hawk and GC Busan both picked up the 3rd seed in their respective groups. Starlight Gaming and WGS went 4th in their respective groups. What that actually means here in the play-ins is this very first match is not actually an elimination match. BM Hawk plays GC Busan. The winner goes through to the playoffs. The loser is essentially a mini double elimination. The loser will go on to play the winner of Starlight versus WGS, and it will be the loser of that subsequent match that gets eliminated and the winner of it that goes into playoffs. So when we're looking at this first match, it is perfectly possible that both of these teams, BM Hawk and GC Busan, both make it into playoffs still. The road is a lot more tenuous, if you will, for Starlight Gaming and WGS Phoenix. That safety net is there for these first 2 teams tonight.
Yeah, one of them goes home straight away. Starlight Gaming, WGS, that is already an immediate elimination game. So somebody's not going to make it out. Somebody has to go home. Somebody will be limited. And not only that, but if you're eliminated straight away here, you actually drop back down to trials. So this is the kind of thing where we talked about this in the regular season. Even making it in the final seed here in your respective group for WGS and Starlight, there's still no safety just yet to return next season.
Yeah, that's a really major threat that you actually bring up there. Obviously, it's only the top 7 teams that will stay guaranteed or have a guaranteed spot at least in next season of Contenders. So that little extra piece on the line. It also means these two teams here, BM Hawk and GC Busan, regardless of their results across tonight and tomorrow night and then the playoffs thereafter, they are guaranteed to at least have a spot to return to for the first season of next year. Whatever that ends up looking like, let's get stuck into this particular match. BM Hawk versus GC Busan, and this is an exciting one on paper, I have to say, because both of these teams have had a lot of promise around them that never quite got fully realized. It has felt like the gap between them and the respective second place finishers in their groups ended up being insurmountably large, but these are both still incredibly strong teams, and they'll be bringing their A game tonight.
BM Hawk, who had, put away Starlight very comfortably 3-0, 3-1 versus JNGK as well. You look over towards GC Busan, 3-0 versus Incendia Evolution, a 3-1 versus WGS. There was also that extra map win that GC Busan got versus Team CC, as well as a draw as well. I think that is one of the closer games that we can go back on. Looking over the BM Hawks starting roster as well as their kind of history here, they kind of lack that same prowess versus either T1 or O2 Blast, where, you look back at those games, fairly comfortable 3-0 win for O2 Blast, for T1 as well. Looking at that score line, yeah, it's more of the same thing, realistically speaking. So there hasn't been a lot of that extra oomph, that extra power level being shown by BM Hawk that you did see from GC at least against CC. On the starting lineup here as well, I mean, lots of familiar names. If you join us late in the season, the big story behind BM Hawk is that O2 Blast had loaned out 3 of their members from their championship winning roster of last season onto the squad to then join, members that are already here like Babel.
Yeah, this is a pretty solid-looking roster on paper. Like I kind of said, both of these teams came in with a significant amount of promise, and I feel like you've laid out pretty clearly what that promise actually was for BM Hawk, and I think that there is still, an amount of that to still be potentially realized. That's the other thing. Yeah, sure, they didn't end up being capable of taking out either T1 or O2 in their group, but very comfortably dispatched of the other teams in their group, and the tournament run's not over. There's still plenty of time for them to kick into another gear. In fact, if anything, tonight is the night we're most likely to see one or both of these two teams really start to take that journey. Let's go ahead and jump across now to GC Busan, who I feel had a slightly rockier road, if you will. I'm reminiscent now of the match they had against Team CC, purely because it was our final week's result that kind of threw all of the previous results of CC into contention. This is, of course, their loss against Incendia Evolution, the team that was actually eliminated from Group B. And this is after CC had some otherwise fairly confident-seeming wins against other teams like GC Busan. But you look at some of the losses they had within those wins, like the loss on Blizzard World in their match against GC Busan, and there is a secondary narrative that starts to emerge of maybe CC not being as unilaterally powerful as it might seem at first glance, which keeps the door open for the likes of a resurgent GC Busan. So again, much like I said for BM Hawk, if this team has that other gear that they're going to shift into, tonight's the night it's got to happen.
I think GC Busan definitely come in looking strong. CC definitely are a little bit weaker in terms of where we have them in our top 4 there. I would say comfortably in that number 4 position. So taking that into account, is it the fact that GC Busan played against a weaker team that is in the top 4, or is GC Busan kind of that team that's shown a little bit more, has a little bit more to go through and more potential as well? Because I would almost kind of put Incendia Evolution in that kind of bag, despite them being eliminated now, having that late resurgence for Incendia Evolution, taking down Team CC. Part of me thinks, yeah, okay, CC look a little bit weaker, but also some of the other teams in this Group B had that firepower still to go through. And Team Diamond, GC Busan here, they've been the solid middle-of-the-pack team. And for what it's worth, by the way, the only reason that they are in the play-ins instead of the playoffs is the fact that they have that direct head-to-head loss versus CC. Because otherwise, CC and Team Diamond have the exact same scoreline, 2-2 record with a 0 map differential.
Yeah, that's actually a really important note as well. So it kind of feels like it ended up being maybe a game of inches more than it was an enormous gulf. And there's also something to be said of, the history of results, as in how far back in time did it actually happen? Because obviously it's been several weeks since then. The GC Busan that we've been seeing more recently is seemingly as good as ever, if not better, ever so slightly, compared to what we saw against Team CC. Obviously, we're doing a lot of comparison here to CC. That's not their opponent tonight, but this just ends up being an important an important relative metric to try and get an understanding of the power rankings in this Group B that GC Busan has emerged from, even if it doesn't give us a direct head-to-head kind of thing, because there's a very fair argument to be had, as you kind of said, like the difference between this team being in play-ins and playoffs ended up being quite slight compared to BM Hawk, who got very comfortably delivered to by T1 and O2. Now, the argument is T1 and O2 are maybe inherently stronger teams anyway. That doesn't necessarily mean BM Hawk are bad. It means T1 and O2 are good. But there's still something to be said of the fact that GC Busan could have been maybe a better finisher in their group, might not have even needed to be here, and maybe the argument could be had that that puts them slightly better on paper.
Moving on as well, I mean, the other thing we have to really talk about is our hero pool, of which there isn't one now going into the playoffs area. So we're in the play-ins currently. We'll be heading to playoffs in just a moment. So the kind of postseason here for Contenders Korea Season 2 is that we are moving away from the meta that we just saw for all of the regular season, all 5 weeks of gameplay, and things could really change, you know. We're really getting into something different just as things are heating up in the competition, which gives opportunity for teams to have a bit of a new look, to go back into older strategies or newer strategies. Lucio is going to be available again. That's going to open up a lot of opportunities for teams to go back towards Brawl, Lucio Moria, Rush-type compositions as well. Double Shield with Sigma into play. These are all things that we saw in Overwatch League just in their play-ins tournament as well, in terms of what teams will start to move back into. Echo is a big hero that is finally back on the table for every single team. That was a big part that was missing in the Countdown Cup as well. So there's plenty to play for, plenty to play through. Our first opening play-ins game now, when it directly glows through to the playoffs of Season 2 versus Team CC. Loser drops down into a lower bracket facing the winner of Starlight and WGS. Here we go. Map number 1, Oasis.
You can bet your bottom dollar that GC Busan will be looking at that potential seed up against CC, jonesing for a rematch, jonesing to prove that they should have, in fact, had that berth directly, snatch it from that former opponent. A lot on the line for both of these teams. Naturally as well, loser will pick the subsequent map, just to mention that. We move away from map pools, but in the immediate sense, we're actually not seeing too big a deviation from what we've seen during the weeks, with, of course, the exception of the Echo coming back into play.
Yeah, it's going to be Becky on that as well. Korea onto the Tracer to start things out with. Becky has also been the Tracer player for GC Busan. It's going to be a nano-based dive composition with Inhyuk over towards the Winston. Yahoo is going to be on the ball to start things out with BM Hawk playing a bit more of a laid-back style, especially with the hit scan.
Be pretty relaxed here. GC Busan really on the aggressive here. You've got Babel just kind of having to wrap around the side, take pot shots up at Becky, who is otherwise not having too big an issue. Although really getting into the thick of it. Becky's the first casualty. Excellent shots by Babel. And he saw Inhyuk kind of bearing the brunt of the pressure on the ground game. A start across and now the extra damage. He's in full retreat. Gonna get run down by Yahoo with the help of Although. With that, BM Hawk should be enough to break the levies. Now it's a matter of how much they can sweep away in the flood, as they've already captured the one.
Gorio down now, so finally starting to get some real kills coming on through from BM Hawk. This is just going to be clean up. Loose protects mech, but with the camp coming on through, like you mentioned, it's all just bonus. They already have percentage going up in both the capture point and also ults. Look at that, Pulse Bomb nearly available for all those, so plenty of damage to open things up.
Pretty solid start for BM Hawk. Now my eye is kind of drawn to Quasid and Nano Boost play. Something maybe delivered through Inhyuk could be the way back in. Just keeping a lid on Babel will be nice. We give Becky some room to breathe. That's a huge pulse bomb. Super slick. That's a hard reset already on GC Busan, who probably won't lose more members here unless there's a bit of a misstep, but it is just time loss.
Especially when Quaz is nearly on the Nano Boost as well, so ideally GC Busan, they don't lose Inhyuk there, they don't lose anybody. Nano win for the next fight straight away. BM Hawk obviously find the first ult timing there. Pulse bomb on. Likely the best target outside. I think Quaz would be the second best target there. No, in fact, Quaz would be even better, but... Ooh. Going to this fight now. Yeah, it's got to be the nano play from GC Busan. BM Hawk. Mines have already been expended. Minor slowdown here for GC Busan, but time is starting to dwindle as well. 60% and counting right now.
Yeah, it's really getting lean. That nano boost has to be delivered to Inhyuk, who has managed to make his way in. Excellent hop right onto Papa Dog. Protect will have to self-destruct, reset that mech. No further casualties just yet, even with a couple of hot shots coming across. And Babel, that's huge, just shy of the duplicate. It's going to be the rally running for Lego. They're going to try and stay in this one because they honestly don't have much of a choice. If they reset here, they may not have enough time to get back in. Papa Dog having Transcendence, holding tight on it, doesn't end up committing it to save Protect's mech, and a Pulse Bomb landing onto Sanguinar. So GC Busan looking to claw this one back. They've got the ultimate supremacy as well, but they're able to conserve a good number of them at the end.
Too many dead there for Papa Dog to rescue with the Transcendence. A late death here, but KBM Hawk are leading by 90%. They'll be able to recover. GC Busan still save a decent amount of ultimates, and they're about to rotate back into the nano play for Quasar at 78%. So not too bad here as BM Hawk. Babel over towards the Sombra for the next engage. They kind of just need a one and done here, and Sombra does make sense. One EMP to close out the fight, get the capture, get that 99% into the 100. Although looking for another Pulse Bomb, playing Quasar just waiting for Nano.
Doesn't quite catch the Pulse Bomb onto Anyhawk, who is able to leap away. Another Nano available already now for Quasar. Gurio really feeling the heat. They're going to have to start committing some tools. They can't just sit back and be overly conservative, and there we go. It's going to be Primal first from Anyhawk, just trying to get the damage down. Manual Hack is going to be in there, but overly threatened, still keeping presence around the point itself. They don't get too much beneficially out of it, so good Manual Hack to kind of disable that a little. Finally, the Transcendence to come out. Doesn't save Yahoo from the self-destruct, naturally. Sanguinar also brought low with the anti-heal on, could not get topped up by that Transcendence, so it's a straight man advantage for GC Busan. But it is an expensive man advantage. That's been 3 ultimates committed so far, with only the 1 casualty on Yahoo. They're still in the scrap, though. Becky's over on a duplicated Diva. Anyhawk going down. Pulse Bomb just barely wide from Gurio, and it's starting to come off hard at the seams, it seems, for GC Busan, as they're looking to lose Gurio here as well. BM Hawk may have just held off for long enough.
BM Hawk have got this rally running also. The rally armor has been really ticking up for Babel, especially who's getting on towards this EMP. We'll talk about the BM Hawk one and done. They've also got the capture, and this is all before an EMP is needed. They're about to have it now, and this should be the fight closer.
This is really unfortunate timing for GC Busan as well. There was a late DMEC on Silvercoin. They had to just kind of go ahead and commit a rally anyway before they were in any kind of position, both in terms of members and in terms of the actual physical positioning to continue the fight, but they had no choice because, of course, already at about 95% after that cap went over.
So BM Hawk, second to last fight there where, as you sort of mentioned, they barely lost members. It was Primal starting up from Anyhawk straight in towards the Nano, a clutch Nano, by the way. That Quasar managed to get in there just as Anyhawk's life looked like it was about to fade. Becky goes for the duplicate over towards the Diva. I mean, it doesn't get a super high amount of value, and GC Busan don't get nearly enough kills. And BM Hawk, they rally through, they find the EMP, they get the capture before the EMP is even necessary, and then close that book shut 100. BM Hawk as we move over. Lucio available as a reminder, so it is going to be brawl on either side. Silvercoin starting on the Sigma. Low members.
That was a really clutch immortality field. It's bought them enough time to finish off Anyhawk. Yahoo now going to be under fire himself, but staying alive. Compare that to Silvercoin, not so lucky. Absolute dynamite start there from BM Hawk.
And they roll through. Lots of freezing targets there from Although as well, Babel, rather. Laser beam from the Symmetra. Fully charged up. BM Hawk, another fight win going their way, another early neutral going their way. Convincingly so as well. Yahoo 73% income, only on towards the 40, and Silvercoin's got that front-loaded damage on the Sigma. Looking for these front-to-back fights. It's the maze that will open things up, though.
Oh,
maybe it'll be Sanguinar.
Silvercoin, that's a really tough break there, just over the edge to Sanguinar. Oh, how I have missed you, Lucio.
Looking for a secondary target here as well. Might be able to find it. Quiet in, he got
nearly had it.
Staying on for the time being. They haven't really dealt with Sanguinar. Not even really looking at him so far. GC Busan are holding tight when they should be looking for an engage. Perhaps they're waiting for Quasar to get the Zap Matrix up. Papa Dog's already got one.
They're just going to go ahead and commit to the brawl, and it comes in just a fraction of a hair later. Papa Dog has already got his window set up. Sanguinar's down early, though, so it's a clean enough engage from GC Busan that they kind of push past BM Hawk's window, even with that light wall in place. So now protects DMEX and taken out. That light wall from Babel not looking so hot anymore. Yahoo down, speaking of not looking hot, gets frozen up and taken down by a fire strike. Suppose that would thaw him out in the end. And now GC Busan just a solid engage, leading to a very successful brawl, kind of neutering most of BM Hawk's tools. And GC Busan, the shoes on the other foot now, they look way ahead.
It's nothing used as well. I mean, GC Busan used that single amp matrix from Quasar. That's about it. 5 ultimates still on board. BM Hawk lose Sanguinar almost straight away to Becky, and for BM Hawk to then overcommit with Yahoo going past the archway through the choke, being walled off by Becky. I mean, that is going to be rough. Papa Dog comes in to try and save the immortality field. It's not going to be good enough. Yahoo's gone down. Sound barrier's not there for the save, and BM Hawk, they hand Jisoo Busan push off the point, push back towards their own spawn. No reason to overcommit there, especially not without the Lucio, and they pay for it.
Jisoo Busan now. Both teams just going ahead, commit a Blizzard. Good freeze up on Yahoo, but the barrier is there. Pup Dog's lost the Immortality Field earlier, and that means Babel's hung out to dry, or indeed hung out to freeze. And a nice pick up with the Gravitic Flux as well. Pretty clean in the end from Jisoo Busan. They do have to throw in all of their tools, but when BM Hawk used a good number of their own, that doesn't feel like such a bad deal.
And BM Hawk responded with their own Blizzard, the sound barrier from both sides as well, but it's Jisoo Busan that had 4 up. 4 extras that BM Hawk didn't have, and one of the more important ones was actually the Photon Barrier from Gurio, already used by Babels in a previous fight. He'll have that now. So it's going to be Photon Barrier plus Matrix on both ends. Excellent wall from Becky something out with.
Trouble here. That's a bit of a tough break. It's just straight damage now getting laid into Inhyuk, who has a shatter but needs a good time to use it. There we go. It's a double either way as Yahoo picks up Inhyuk picks up Yahoo with the shatters, but it's Inhyuk who gets the worst end of the trade as he goes down, having lost Gurio now as well. BM Hawk clean back in on the engage, just leaving that slight ultimate advantage with the Photon Barrier available.
So BM Hawk now trying to regain this lead so slightly, and the Photon Barriers have been kind of game changers here. We'll talk about Ant Matrixes, and Ant Matrixes aren't going to do too much when Photon Barriers have so much shielding in front of you. That's always going to be BM Hawk's favorite window. It's going to be the main plays from both ends now. No sound barriers to counter any of this, so Sanguinar and Lego will need to have these speed boosts available to get the teams out, or indeed in, if you are Jisoo Busan looking for the re-engage.
You've got to tip Jisoo Busan ever so slightly here just because they're already up to it on the Blizzard, but although he's got his now and Becky's down early, good D-Mech on Protect, and Becky did at least get the Blizzard off, so there we go. They've at least found another, but Silver Queen dead just shy of a Gravitic Flux, and I think that's going to seal it. Yahoo on an absolute rampage in the front line of that fight.
What a cleanup from GC, well, from BM Hawk rather than. Yahoo with the triple kill towards the end, some ultimates coming online, time for BM Hawk. Jisoo Busan, they had the earlier Blizzard coming through, but they lost Becky almost straight away. So, in fact, definitely straight away. That was Yahoo's first kill. Only one trade going over towards Protect. Yahoo walks forward. They have the Photon Barrier from Gurio that ends up not really helping Jisoo Busan. And Yahoo walks past, and that's going to be it. So, BGM Hawk, well done. It's only going to take them the 2 sub maps to get there as well. No third round required.
Yeah, that's the thing I think that's the most impressive about that. Like, that certainly on University was like very reasonably close, but in terms of execution, like the reset for Jisoo Busan was just way too long. That's why that last fight ended up being so critical. Like, they didn't have room for error. They did not have any space left for them. The fight goes a little bit pear-shaped, and like that's it. It was over. It was extremely abrupt, and it's because it had already accumulated to what, some 62+% for BM Hawks. So kind of masters of their own demise there, dare I say it, on the Jisoo Busan side, but still relatively close overall, and it does feel like the execution is there in equal measure for both teams. I feel like it's going to come down to slightly more notable macro beats. At any rate, though, it does mean it's Jisoo Busan's map pick, and I believe they have picked Hanamura.
Which means I think we should get more brawl play here, possible for double shields to come on in, definitely Symmetra, so we saw plenty of Symmetra on both sides for University. BM Hawk and Jisoo Busan with some dive looks and broad looks, really running the gamut of different compositions today. It's Jisoo Busan that's playing the Winston variation, where BM Hawk had that kind of ball variation. Both are fairly viable. BM Hawk definitely had the edge in both matchups, so moving forward to Hanamura, we'll see if that continues or not, and how teams are going to deal with some of these Symmetra TPs. And look, Farah is still a big hero into play. Don't mind the fact that Echo is available now and has been one of the favorable matchups for an Echo versus Fire, but on maps like these, especially when teams are prone to be playing a brawl, especially on this Hanamura A, I think Fire could be a factor. See if anyone wants to bring that out.
See if anyone feels brave enough. Certainly teams we've seen who do favor the Fire in a big way. Does seem like the very least based off University, Jisoo Busan are keen on that double shield play. So I think this really is just a map pick of them wanting to stick with their guns, wanting to stick with the compositions they have felt out for these playoffs. And that is, by the way, an interesting extra thing. We only got to talk about it briefly before the start of this, but obviously the lack of hero pool does mean we're seeing some of those other compositions coming back into play. We've already seen, obviously the Lucio as the Sigmas, the Echoes come back in. And that does mean there is opportunity for a team to go, okay, the team compositions that we are looking to run across these playoffs are a double shield Sigma and, you know, so on and so forth. Like, we will probably start to see more of that definition coming through. And I feel like we already are in a way, at the very least, with GC Busan.
So the Lucio Moria possibility to come on in. You still have some Sombra Tracer dive with Briggs in, which is exactly what, actually, that's exactly what BM Hawk played. So that's been run already. Hit scan options. Ash is back in the pool. That's another hero that was banned in the last hero pool. And very important for a lot of hit scan repertoires. Very important hero in terms of having more utility and better ultimates in some cases than either Widowmaker or McCree. So, yeah, I think we really have just skimmed the surface here. And this is only the first matchup here as well. I do wonder what other teams have got in their back pockets, as I'm sure plenty of what we remember from pre-hero pool meta is going to resurface, and a lot of the lessons that we learned in our hero pool meta as well, including, I think, that one of the big winners of the last meta was Hanzo. We'll see if that comes back up the, because if Orisa gets played, Hanzo gets played as well.
It very much seems that way, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much bearing some of that regular season ends up having on these playoffs in terms of, you know, what teams know about other teams and like who's got the right kind of picks for certain things. Like you said, if we see Orisa, we probably see Hanzo, and we also started to very clearly see some of the real shining standout Hanzo players. Wonder if we'll see a Genji as well. I don't know. I don't know that I want to.
Genji did get buffed as well, so even Genji Soldier received some major buffs. Ball actually received a pretty major buff. Bit of a nerf as well in terms of recontesting, well deserved. Roadhog received a buff, but not enough, I would say, to really warrant any real playtime. So BM Hawk, they're going to come through with Babel on the Ashe. There it is, our first look of Ashe returning into the meta here. And it's part of the Briggs Zen backline as well. So that's going to be the opening defense from BM Hawk. Very dive oriented. Plenty of damage on the back end. Jisoo Busan, we'll see what they start out with, because they so far look like they want to be moving through with the more safe kind of nano boost onto Inhyuk, same as what they did on City Center for Oasis.
Glad we cut away from that. Those were maybe some of the most annoying sound effects I've ever heard.
Hey, look, that's just my voice, all right? Deal with it.
Oh, right, sorry.
Deal with it.
My bad. Sorry, I thought I was muted when I said that. That's really unfortunate. GC Busan, though, we'll have to see how well they execute on this particular day. Please don't. Actually, they're deciding they want to change things up. Okay, well, we're seeing a Genji. How about it?
Yeah, so they're going to go to Lucio Moria. So this is something I did talk about as well. Lucio Moria has a lot of speed involved here. It's going to be Becky over towards Genji. A couple options here. You could run with this. Could be Tracer, could be Sombra. It's going to be the Genji Reaper combinations. They are just going to go for the rotation straight away. Babel did land a pretty meaty dynamite, so counter rotation now for BM Hawk is Babel's just trying to maximize the distance between himself and GC Busan.
Managed to get the Orbit Discord on Becky for a hot second there, so GC Busan hunkered down, wait that one out. Here comes the next rotation. A little bit different straight across, looking to brawl now. The dive very cleanly in. Let's see if they can get the damage through, though. Already having to see Silvercoin and Goodyo give a bit of space, but they have earned themselves that space. Meanwhile, Quasit's being cornered in the backline by Yahoo. I don't think he's long for this world here. There's only so much he can do. Does actually force Yahoo back to the point, though, as GC Busan just gets scrapped and they go, okay, we'll just take a 5v5. Looking more like a 4v5 now with the absence of Becky due to his untimely demise at the hands of Babel. That's going to be less than a third. Still haven't quite secured that one yet now as Goodyo goes down. No DPS is left in it. Pulse Bomb does go wide from Although, but I don't think it's going to matter all that much. The cleanup is looking to be there. So first defense, BM Hawk, pretty tidy.
And GC Busan just can't quite get on the right targets here. Babel gets away, 61%, plenty of damage. Yahoo nearly on the minefield, and should be pretty standard for Ball to be able to do that. That's part of the weakness of GC Busan's Lucio Moria comp, is they're so stuck together. They are so clumped up that you're going to get maximum value on both Dynamites and also Power Drive. So the BM Hawk are going to get a ton of work done with that advantage as we move over towards Coalescence for GC Busan. Shouldn't dilly-dally on this one. Coalescence straight in. Pressure out Babel if possible. Plenty of ultimates on the defensive side as well, though.
Very fast rotation. Yeah, they're really wasting no time on this. Yahoo trying to disrupt it a little bit, but this time Becky is kind of warding on that back line. Now we'll have to see GC Busan quick rotation again onto the point, straight on in. That's a nice slam down from Yahoo. They've already lost Becky. The Coalescence a little bit too late on that one, I would say. Now Silvercoin's still under threat. They need to decide hard now whether they're going to commit more ultimates. And, they have found Babel, but Lego chooses to not commit a sound barrier. It causes his own death and the demacking of Silvercoin, especially with Goodyo as the solo DPS. He's going to have to do double the work, rather. Silvercoin also going to get finished off. Scudio's going to get taken out as well. GC Busan are again going to find the push fall flat.
Yeah, Lego was on like 1 HP there. Didn't want an Ajax to beat. I can understand that from GC Busan's POV. They get down Babel, which has been one of the bigger problems for BM Hawk, but they lose Becky instantly to the minefield, and another difficulty for GC Busan is they find it very difficult to get past that ultimate. Although that being said, Quasar did have the Coalescence. It was probably not the fastest. Usually when you lead with the Coalescence, they lack it now, so it's going to have to be a speed in. Sound Barrier into the Blade is probably the only option, and Papa Dog has held onto the Transcendence. Did not need to use it in the last fight, and we'll have the perfect counter now.
That's super big. We'll have to see how well the timings can come through on all of these moves now as GC Busan. This will be the final push, no doubt, as well. We're already down to 30-something seconds. Sound Barrier is there for them, but they're really playing it close to the chest on that Blade. They've at least found Although, as Gudio just kind of piles in, gets the corner trap. Like I said, playing it super close to the chest, maybe too close, but the Death Blossom does get the work done. That self-destruct is looking a little bit spicy. Will take down Lego with it, but Gudio living. Babel getting picked off. Gudio, low as he is going to be able to find a health pack, start to rotate back towards the point, and GC Busan have actually managed to conserve a decent number of ultimates in all this.
I think BM Hawk come back in for one last contest. At minimum, they will be able to force out these ults. Although coming through for the touch, Bob can be played as well for the stagger here, for the stall rather, and here comes the Coalescence. Now Becky's still trying to hold that Blade.
Oh, nice early final to Yahoo. That is just going to neuter BM Hawk's ability to keep playing around this point. Protect now taking the brunt of all the fire, including the remainder of the Coalescence. Quickly dispatched off. Now it's just Babel trying to free fire on the backline while the rest of them juggle aggro on the point. I don't know that it's going to last all that long with the Bob dealt with. And Hyok's low, though. That's fine. Becky may be forced to Blade indeed. Straight out. Finds Papa Dog. Second slash. Doesn't quite find Sanguinar quick smart like he was hoping. Ends up having it back to the point. Not quite the turnaround they were looking for, but GC Busan will still steer clear through the remainder of this fight to finish off the cap.
Not bad from BM Hawk, though. They got a lot of ultimates out there. Like Pulse Bomb from Waldo is probably unrequired, but at this point in time, BM Hawk got to know that they have lost this point. They're just feeding more ultimates over. Lego has Sound Barrier up and available, and Quasar, over the course of that fight, started with the Coalescence, will end with nearly another Coalescence, but the big purchase was the fact that they got Becky's Blade out. So, snowball pressure from GC Busan's been lessened because of it, but still there's going to be nearly 5 ultimates online anyway, so the double cap, I have to say, is definitely still a possibility.
Very much on the table. I mean, look at it all. Coalescence, Sound Barrier into Death Blossom. You got Primal Rage from Hyok. There's a lot that can be done here, so they don't just have to try and play through Becky. Obviously, with the lack of that Blade anyway. Babel as well going to try and charge up an EMP. Quick smart. GC Busan, there's a timing window. They need to respect that.
And BM Hawk don't really have much to work with here. Papa Dog's on 69, not quite 70 just yet, and GC Busan, I would say they're wasting time at this stage. They need to be going in. Coalescence in, this is what we're talking about.
They seem to be spending a lot of time trying to get on top of Although first. Hyok gets left high and dry because Quasar is snaking around, trying to keep the beam on Although and then moving around sort of the long way towards his tanks. This is absolutely backfired on GC Busan, and it's baffling to me. They ended up, instead of taking a more direct route, they kind of dallied around the side, took this really winded way to the point, and it costs them dearly.
And it cost BM Hawk nothing. They have 6 ultimates now. They actually got that fight for free. GC Busan actually didn't commit fully. They had that one Coalescence. The reason why they didn't Primal or use a self-destruct is because both Hyok and Silvercoin were manually hacked by Babel back to back. Each of these manual hacks resulted in the death of one of their tanks. So GC Busan slowly lost all value on that point, all sort of impact on that point as well. Now it's going to be a full reset neutral. 5 ultimates versus 6. This is one of the more stacked ultimate fights that we've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't know that they're even going to have time for this because, look, they're going to have to... They're being super slow. Again, really coy on this approach. It doesn't mean the EMP hasn't come out just yet. Babel chose to translocate back into Maze, but GC Busan, they've committed everything in the kitchen sink. Haven't found anything for it. Nothing to be seen from the Death Blossom. It's a 1-for-1 on the DPS. It's now 2-for-2, but losing Quasar's a tough break. You've only got Lego solo healing. He's manually hacked, and Becky is struggling to get damage done with this Blade through Papa Dog's Transcendence. Now Lego down. GC Busan, this is going to be a hard reset and a really punishing one as well. They've only got 40 seconds left.
Absolutely. GC Busan now running out of a lot of the resources that they had. Silver Coins were staggered through as well. This is going to be extra brutal. Would love to be able to remake and look for some damage, but doesn't want to waste too much time. I don't really have much of that remaining. 25 now is what they have on the clock. It's pretty much everyone changed. They're going over towards a shield comp, and I suppose Silvercoin, yeah, he's got a self-destruct, so we start that fight with 11 ultimates. We end with only 2.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely wacky. It's really just self-destruct to self-destruct, but you got to say on the other ultimates, BM Hawk leads significantly. I'm looking at things like the rally. I'm looking at things. I mean, the Nano Boost could probably get there quicker than the Transcendence, but first things first, they got to send in Becky to touch. That's a beautiful self-destruct. It completely cuts off GC Busan. Becky does find a good kill on Protect. Silvercoin barely getting back in the mech, but Becky is under so much heat. There are now no DPSs left for GC Busan. It is all on the tanks. Inhyuk is really struggling to lumber his way on to this point. They got a barrier down. They're really having to use Silvercoin for all their force projection here, although running rampant with that extra rally armor on him as well. He is an unkillable monster about now going hunting with the pulse bomb. You've got Gurio sitting pretty, trying to free fire away on the top side, although it's all over him. He's going to go down to the pulse bomb. No, Becky's trying to come in hot with the Doom Fist, and like you said, no Quasar means no Nano, means Becky, even with that kill on Papa Dog, probably going to be left high and dry anyway. And there you have it, Lego last man standing, hacked out before he can even commit a rally that would have already gone onto himself anyway. No gain whatsoever on B from GC Busan after struggling their way onto A.
And there's only been 3 minutes to play on towards B anyway, because BM Hawk, like you said, A was such a good defense. They played the timer entirely down. They had the retake as well, which forced out extra ultimates, pretty much all of GC Busan's ultimates. Yes, GC Busan then nearly charged quite a few of them back up, especially the Cold Essence, but they lost the Blade. The one shot that GC Busan really had to get this B cap or get any percentage on B was the initial tank on B itself. That first attempt they had on B had to be their best one. And they kind of floundered it. It was very slow. Didn't target their coalescence well. They need to be hitting the back line with that. They need their full dive to be going in. Primal abound and all of that. Babel, to me, on BM Hawk was the real hero of the defense that got double manual hacks of both tanks, resulting in 2 tank kills. That entirely stopped GC Busan. That also put a lot of value in BM Hawk's own ultimate bank there, because they farmed up 6 ultimates off that without using anything. And then obviously when you have an 11 ultimate fight, on top of the fact there's defender spawn advantage, BM Hawk were in a great position. There was no way they were going to lose that outside of making some big mistakes. Getting caught by Becky's Blade, no chance. Papa Dog had that Transcendence, and then GC Busan, they ran out of time. They only had 3 minutes total to play on B, and it went away quite quick.
Bit of a rough one altogether, but you've just got to give the credit to BM Hawk on that defense. Now we'll have to see if GC Busan can pull off something similar, going for a double shield, going for the Orisa. Both teams actually playing an Ashe here, so we're going to have the Ashe head-to-head as well.
GC Busan should have a superior matchup here, just in terms of the fact that there's 2 shields to play behind. Babel's got 0 shields to play behind, but he is pocketed. The damage boost as well as against healing is going to come into play. Getting past Becky's wall is going to be one of the first things to think about. Should be too tough for players like Yahoo, but has to be watched in terms of being frozen. I believe he took a little bit of freeze there. GC Busan, right now, they can just kind of chill until BM Hawk makes some moves.
There is a bit of a double threat here, though, because obviously BM Hawk can kind of run interference using Ulbo and Yahoo just to keep Gurio and Becky a little bit preoccupied at inopportune moments, but it's not a foolproof kind of thing. Instead, though, they just slam down, dislodge, find Silvercoin, and it's already taken out the Immortality Field as well. So GC Busan having to lean back on the remaining shield they have at their disposal. Gurio really under fire here. Closet and Lego having to work overtime to keep everyone topped off. Speaking of topped off, Papa Dog nearly on a Transcendence. Becky gets taken out. GC Busan aren't even on this point. Look at this. Gurio's still trying to win this 1v2 against the likes of Babel and Sanguinar. Meanwhile, BM Hawk are capping the point.
Well, they've barely been stopped now. It's going to be Silvercoin, who, by the way, is a respawning member, was on a Sigma, back on a Diva now. There's no mobility on this team. GC Busan certainly just don't have the speed. Becky's back onto a Tracer. I don't know if he's been a bit touch in time. It's Gurio trying to hold on, but BM Hawk's already won this point. Although got all the kills, and GC Busan just have to respawn. At least they've got some ultimates to play through for their B defense.
Man, I mean, maybe I'm missing something here, but what was Gurio doing? Becky was dead when that big move onto the point came down. He wasn't even necessarily pinned against Babel. He just wasn't looking at the point or doing anything about it in particular. They were leaning on the tanks to somehow win a 2v4 on the point.
I think GC Busan was just committed. It's very difficult to turn around that stage, turn your back over towards Babel. BM Hawk, all they had to do was set up Yahoo behind somewhere, get protected into a situation where they can then line up a dive, all those swings in. It's knockout at the park. Silvercoin was that first target, remind you. GC Busan now, okay, double shield back into place. So Silvercoin's started the Sigma, swapped off the Sigma to go to Devil. Now back onto the Sigma, so hasn't had an ultimate yet. Supercharge coming on through for GC Busan now.
First Bob is going to come out from BM Hawk. If they catch this third, remember they only need to get that. GC Busan completely evacuate the point. I mean, yeah, respect being given to the Bob, that's sensible, but they've maybe over-respected it. They didn't need to completely abandon ship, and they leave themselves tucked off into corners where BM Hawk have no trouble isolating and picking them off. It is a complete wash. Excellent play by BM Hawk.
I think GC Busan did all they could to really engage that point without kind of putting too many unnecessary bodies there. Lego was the first one to touch, but a Brig can only do so much. Guri eventually pops in his own Bob, and the Bob versus Bob fight is going to go the way of the defense because BM Hawk popped the Bob in first. The HP advantage is there, but what really needed to happen is GC Busan off the back of the Supercharger had to win the fight. They needed to get the damage in there, and they couldn't get the trades necessary, and seems like all BM Hawk needed was to put the initial Bob pressure on. They only need one tick to cap, so a single Bob in the point is actually incredibly threatening. And that ends up being enough for the most part, as they wait for GC Busan members to drop down. Again, Lego was the first one, clean them up. That's your one player advantage. Move on through, get rid of the opposing Bob, and suddenly there's not much left to deal with.
And again, I feel like more than anything else, the credit just has to be given to BM Hawk. Like, so far, they've just played better. Like, there's no two ways about it. They've played better. Their defenses have been strong. They've kind of just played by the book. GC Busan have not brought enough to bear. I kind of talked about that, you know, a bit of a step up, a bit of a shift in gear. It's just not really materialized so far for GC Busan. Meanwhile, BM Hawk have just played some really solid Overwatch. They absolutely deserve to be in the 2-0 match points that they find themselves at. The question now is thrown at GC Busan. Can they, at the 11th hour, pull it back together and start turning around this series? We'll have to find out after the break. Well, welcome back. Could be a little bit of a clean one and done for this very first map of the night for, what we talked about as being a really close affair. I've got to say, BM Hawk have been very consistently edging it out. There's no two ways about it. They look like the better team right now. And just before the break, we were saying it's GC Busan who really need to step it up. This isn't their last chance, but they're getting pretty close to that event horizon if they're not too careful.
And, if we were looking over to groups again, it's always hard to know, okay, who's got the harder group here. We can say that Group B was the more competitive group. That's for sure. No doubts about it. But Group A, with the fact that BM Hawk are just this much better than GC Busan today, maybe Group A was the more challenging group overall. I mean, O2 Blast, big bad boss, right at the top of the list there. And BM Hawk, they kind of got demolished by T1 and O2 Blast, but they still have that DNA. They got 3 Hex Championship players from last season's O2 Blast on the team. And it feels like anytime you want to underestimate BM Hawk, that's something that you need to be reminded about. And they're showing it right now. They're showing it to GC Busan. And it's, so far, realistically speaking, not been that close.
To say the least. Once again, it's GC Busan's map pick, given that they lost the last one. And somewhat convincingly as well. There was even an opportunity, given that it's Assault, to go to a draw, but no, the B attack was just a one and done. So that's why I kind of feel like the gulf between these teams is widening. But we'll have to see if GC Busan still have room to prove me wrong as they attack first on King's Row.
Okay, GC Busan now going over towards a double bubble type of composition. Notice that GC Busan today have primarily been playing a Winston dive. They haven't really gone towards the ball, and now we start to get some questions answered. Is the ball dive just that much better? Is the Winston dive struggling a little bit more? I think the Winston dive is a little bit more simple to execute, but lacks the kind of complexity and the highs and potential of what you can peak on with this ball dive. So BM Hawk now do suffer a little bit of damage on Papa Dog with the Bionade, but otherwise they're okay. GC Busan still waiting for Nano.
And that seems to be their go here, but I've got to say, it's not the fastest kind of charge. You really want to see it within the first minute. There we go. That Quasit starts to kick into gear with it as Inhyok takes a few lickings, and that should get them in the sub-minute as, assuming things continue as they are. We'll have to see what they actually do with that tool once they have it.
Getting a little bit of energy charge for Silvercoin there as well. So interested in the 55-second mark for Quasit, as they'll be waiting, I think, for the bubble to come online for Silvercoin before they really get to go. So within the next couple of seconds, here we go. Inhyok diving in.
There was a really nice little bit of timing there, actually. Babel took a hit, had to back up from the window, so Inhyok had a bit of a cleaner approach onto that first bit. That being said, no kills gained from it. Not maybe enough ult charge on Inhyok. Becky gets picked off in a really brutal way. Silvercoin not quite where he wants to be either, and they fall short of that third. Now good trade on Yahoo as Inhyok keeps the forward pressure on. You've got to give him credit where it's due. This does force BM Hawk back a smidge as GC Busan have the closer respawn on Becky.
Yahoo just on the side there, being caught out by GC Busan, who otherwise didn't have a very successful dive. I mean, note the fact that they went for the high ground because they kind of have to. That's what all BM Hawk are.
Nice
Pulse
stick.
bomb connects on the Sanguine. Now that's going to give them the opening. And Papa Dog instantly has trance.
That's really threatening on that back line now. They're really putting the hurt down as they've also forced their way onto the point of a big part of that being Inhyok's Primal Rage first third now accumulated. Like to see what they can get done moving forward. Nearly on that second third. Heroes protects Yahoo coming back in. Nice sleep on Protect. Does get the reset on the self-destruct. No, will not be able to get back in the mech. Very nicely handled. As the charge continues up on the point, BM Hawk starting to look a little bit too lean, and the Bob certainly helping things for GC Busan. Yahoo goes in for a last ditch, but straight under the beam of Silvercoin. And now this is going to be a good little bit of tempo gain here from GC Busan as they pick up some late kills on the likes of Papa Dog.
This all kind of comes through from the fact that GC Busan got the initial kill into Yahoo. Didn't really lose too much on their side other than Becky, who respawns. Trace is going to be quick and reinforcing in. Intel goes for a secondary dive, and this time more BM Hawk have landed on the low ground. So the initial dive failed because there wasn't enough follow-up for GC Busan. They hadn't done enough rotations. They hadn't herded BM Hawk into the low ground, so they do a single high ground dive for Intel, but it doesn't get enough done. Drops down, finds Yahoo, and then suddenly the door kind of opens. Papa Dog's trance is very early. Pulse bomb into Sanguinara as well. That forced Transcendence to come in towards play, and BM Hawk just lacked the numbers as GC Busan found ultimates.
This is exactly what they need, some high momentum pushing. It's going to be a minefield to try and stall them up, slow them down a little. Doesn't do maybe as much as they needed.
Mines got eaten up by Inhyok's shield almost instantly. Now we're looking for grab.
Oh,
Dog's down already.
An excellent pulse bomb to take him out means that rally out from Sanguinar gets nowhere near the mileage of Legos. It does mean big ultimate investment on both sides of the fence there, but I feel like GC Busan don't mind that when you consider they're about to have the, well, they've got, in fact, the Bob and the Nano Boost up, about to have Primal as well.
There's 4 ultimates coming through from BM Hawk, and I think GC Busan used something like 3 there, so technically rated value by 1. They also cancel the rally, so it ends up being Papa Dog goes down. Sanguinar's the only defense there. There wasn't a Transcendence anyway, but it gives Silvercoin a lot of confidence just to throw in that grab. Protect can't get the eat. So for GC Busan, they land it perfectly. Full cleanup. Bob deleted, and BM Hawk really on the back foot here, which is so strange considering the last 2 maps.
Yeah, this is not a position we've seen them in before, and it's going to be very telling how well they handle this, because GC Busan are starting to hit their stride. As I say that, although gets the runaround on Gurio, that's a big find, actually. Protect able to get back in the mech there. As GC Busan now under a little bit of pressure, they may lose in. Hyuk, no, they have to commit in. They continue forward. They commit the nano boost partially to keep them alive, but also they are going to have Gurio back in a hot second. They want to keep this momentum up. They regain some of that lost space.
GC Busan have still been pushing the payload this entire time, so they haven't lost too much at the stage, especially now. The 1+ advantage. They can get a second kill here. That would be brilliant.
Gets him right on top of Sanguinar's shield, so he doesn't get the kill collect, but he does keep the pressure on the back line. That's even now forced out a Transcendence as GC Busan have continued on forward. Although just take out Gurio for a second time here, able to slink away there despite the stun coming through from the shield. They've dealt with Gurio's Bob as well. BM Hawk, although just keeping alive here, finally gets run down by Becky, who doesn't divert his attention back to deal with that one. The card has stopped up though.
For the first time, it seems, in a long time here, still just under 3 minutes available, and GC Busan, the loss of Inhyuk might finally have to end up backing. And this fight has lasted so long. Yahoo's ended up using a second minefield. So, BM Hawk now eventually get this defense going underway. Payload is quite close. We're looking for a grab fight. Now, the issue here is that Silvercoin doesn't have energy. About 15 now remaining. Would love to charge up a little bit more. Probably just waiting for Quasit to get the last 4% on the nano. Backed up by a rally. This could be a really good fight for GC Busan.
Going straight on in with the nano up onto the high ground. Quick dislodge of Babel, who does toss the Bob down, so far so good. Hyuk not getting a whole lot out of that rally, and the Bob dispatches of him. Good grab off to the side,
Protect
but
the line.
unable to finish off Protect, who now gets to toss the self-destruct board for free, but excellent kills coming through. The loss of Silvercoin, bit of a tough break. No tanks here for GC Busan, and a slick stick from Although onto Quasit, kind of pulling the rug out from under the remaining members. That's going to allow BM Hawk to hold tight against the remainder of GC Busan.
Yeah, they couldn't keep Inhyuk alive there at all, and then, okay, they're dropping the rally, they're dropping the nano boost as well. The grab it on Surge doesn't get comboed up with a pulse bomb or anything, so Protect stays alive, gets used to self-destruct even. And GC Busan, they get stuck by this stray pulse bomb, although I'm pretty sure Quasit walked into it. It looked like a mistake. It looked like Quasit, although it was just kind of lobbing a pulse bomb through onto a different target, into a different area, and Quasit's body just wafted in front of it. Busan, though, down to 1 minute 20 now, and BM Hawk, they'll take that for free.
Absolutely no troubles there. Yahoo gonna be able to get out of here without too much issue. Just bumping people, brushing some shoulders on his way out. Sticking the elbows out.
Nothing really coming online of note until we get towards the nano once again. At least Primal Rage we in the pocket of Inhyuk for this final fight, and it looks like it will be the final one as well. GC Busan don't have a lot of time to reset. Maybe if they have one quick loss and go back to base and maybe have, what, 15-20 seconds remaining. Other than that, it has to be the one and done here. It doesn't look great. Even if they do cap, you're looking towards a time bank scenario where it all would just be a draw. BM Hawk have any time on their hands, so we'll see.
All right, that's a great start, and this time Inhyuk, despite getting low, has the self-rescue available in the form of the Primal Rage, so not as threatened this time. Transcendence now having run out, obviously Protect D-Max not quite close enough to get it back in it, but GC Busan, they're playing again, really close to the chest, maybe closer than they ought to be. They're letting BM Hawk have time to reset and respawn. Nice dead eye there from Gurio, gets Yahoo low, immediately followed up with a quick shot to dispatch of him, so no tanks available for the defense right now. Babel just trying to take the long shots, good damage coming in as the Bayonade lobs onto the back line, barely getting the contest on Sanguinar's the sacrificial lab, the tip of the spear for Protect, now the shaft coming in to follow, but look at the charge on Silvercoin. This is GC Busan right where they want to be. Slow and steady ends up paying off. They trap Yahoo in a grab, and that's going to seal the deal for GC Busan. No time left in the bag, but a full cap to show for it.
So the nano coming through from Inhyuk this time, like I mentioned, backed up by the Primal Rage. GC Busan get a lot more value off that. Yahoo dying to residual damage of, I'm not too sure what happened to the Deadeye there from Gurio. It looked like it could have connected onto Yahoo. Perhaps he activated his shield just in time. In fact, that's probably what it was. Yahoo activates his adaptive shield just as the Deadeye shot comes through, and then still remains on 1 HP there for Guerrero to land the final shot required to get him down, and BM Hawk just didn't have enough answers there. Sanguinar and Papa Dog didn't quite have the ultimate. Sanguinar was on 98% as the payload goes across the line. So GC Busan in the overtime now will have a full completion, but like I said previous to this, now we look at BM Hawk. If they finish this map with any sort of time bank here, GC Busan are only playing for a draw, so it's still dangerous. In that context, though, over the course of Contenders' careers that we've had this season so far, not a lot of teams have actually finished hybrids. I think it took us a long time, and one of the final weeks might have been the final week before we finally got teams finishing a hybrid map. So jury's still out on whether BM Hawk can do that properly, because GC Busan had a decent map overall, outside of the fact that C was a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, we kind of remarked on it, I believe. Actually, it was either CC versus... no, it was the day before that, but we finally had a time bank. We had not had a single time bank on hybrid prior to that, which is interesting, because often you do see those coming through. You see both teams have a good attacking half, so now the questions lie on GC Busan's defense now that they've shown they've still got the stuff on the offense.
Sigma ball for BM Hawk, yeah, protect over towards that Sigma. GC Busan not changing up anything that they were already running up in their last game. Obviously, the lineup is a little bit different considering Guerrero's back over towards the Ash now, where it changed over to the McCree previously. And BM Hawk really favoring the ball offenses and defenses. Neither team wanting to move back over towards any sort of Lucio type compositions. The risks seem pretty minor. None of that to be played as well. BM Hawk already onto this point, and GC Busan, they need to contest.
Yeah. They're just kind of backing up, letting this one go. Now looking to push back in with Inhyuk. They're nearly there on a nano boost. There we go. Good deep onto the back line to find Papa Dog. That's going to firmly dislodge BM Hawk. Not before they finish getting that initial third, though. They do lose Gurio in the process. BM Hawk are forced back.
Tech, though, again. So BM Hawk gets to walk away with something here. Sanguinar down early, so BM Hawk are going to reset. Might have a second death here as well in terms of Aldo dying, so GC Busan, okay, it's a minute and 15 gone, and Quasar still hasn't used a nano yet. Yahoo will probably be able to get away. I don't think GC Busan are going to chase this. I mean, Becky can try and chase this. Another thing they could do is look for the stick on the opening for BM Hawk is pushed.
Oh my goodness, Inhyuk nearly made me choke on my water there. They do have that nano boost, though. I think if things got really threatening, that's a nice pulse bomb, but it's going to be able to be stopped up by a quick shield. Nano boost comes through onto Inhyuk, but Gurio's down early due to Yahoo being on that back line. Inhyuk trying to stick in it. They get the DMEC on Protect. They're still looking for Inhyuk to get that Primal Rage available. Second, third accumulator for BM Hawk. The scrap's not been on the point. GC Busan, they've done a good job of picking BM Hawk apart on the flanks, but it does mean BM Hawk haven't been walking away completely empty-handed.
It's taking so long, though. There's 2 minutes gone. So we're looking towards a map completion with the time bank remaining. They would have to get through the rest of the map pretty damn fast. And GC Busan had plenty of ultimates lined up in that previous fight, and we finally saw the support ultimates coming on in. Talked about the fact that Quasar hasn't had to use the nano yet. It's BM Hawk's turn to now use some ultimates, especially the rally coming online. So Papa Dog forced a trance because of the pulse bomb coming on through.
It's a really big force. Silvercoin's about to have a grab. That could be absolutely enormous now, as long as they can get it past Protect, and he's on 90 charge. Look at them go. They're nearly there on the grab. Fighter getting it out. Oh, no! Dead to the bomb. How did it take him that long to go from 97% to 100? What was he shooting at? That was completely bizarre. At any rate, an excellent start for GC Busan comes to absolutely zero follow-up. A smooth quick cap from BM Hawkers again. GC Busan are caught napping, not necessarily defending the point directly, and now BM Hawk get a huge tempo shift.
I mean, Silvercoin's got nothing in range. He had nothing to shoot for quite a while as well. Was on 100 energy. Would like to have him walk forward there, but unfortunately BM Hawk, they had the player advantage in the 6v5 there as well, the rally armor at maximum charge. I actually think that even if Silvercoin drops it a grab with 100 energy, it's a lot of damage, but it's a lot of HP on BM Hawk as well, with even more rally armor still to come through despite the lack of a Transcendence. So GC Busan will now have to look for ways to use this Graviton Surge on the defense instead, with Gurio also changing over towards the Sombra. It's a very late change on the Sombra. Wow, I mean, it's about timely, actually. I'll take that back. It's pretty timely, in fact, to lose A and then go over to Sombra for the rest of the map here. They're looking to slow things down further as much as possible with about 2:45 remaining now.
They really don't want to get absolutely rolled here, but that's a great dive onto Yahoo. Unfortunate trade onto Becky, and Inhyok's in too deep, out of line of sight of a nano boost. Now GC Busan need to decide how they commit the rest of these tools. They don't have a pulse bomb to follow this up. It's just a DMAC on Protect, but at least thanks to the manual hack, he's not going to be able to do anything else there. It's going to be a bit of a cleanup now. Big charge plus the nano boost on Silvercoin. He's acted as a pseudo DPS in the absence of Becky. That being said, though, the late resurgence here from BM Hawk, GC Busan did not seal the deal. Their attention again got split at an inopportune moment. Now trying to recontest 5 versus 5, soon to be 5 versus 6, and then once you get Silvercoin walking back up, it'll be 6v6. And Hyung's dead so fast, it's unbelievable.
Just so much damage coming through from BM Hawk. Lego go for a late rally. They actually got to play this one. 4-man EMP. Where's Papadog with the save?
And I mean, I don't know that he's particularly threatened because the damage didn't pile onto those members. Protect only went down because it couldn't remech. So I don't blame Papadog for holding on to it, but now they've still got a decent amount of advantage. Solid rally armor, not particularly threatened, and holding that Transcendence over the heads, the sword of Damocles over GC Busan. Inhyok has to decide right here, right now, whether he's going to commit a primal or just die to a pulse bomb, and that is going to be the B cap coming over the way of BM Hawk just as soon as the last few get tided away. Really wacky commit from GC Busan.
Dude, all those landed some really great pulse bombs here today as well. Abel stayed alive for so long on 1 HP there, just protected by the rally armor. Quasar even landed a Bionet on top of him. Has a bomb posthumously to carry on the work of Abel for BM Hawk on towards that push, and now GC Busan go over towards the C defense. Yahoo in a bit of a strange 1v1. Needs to look to rejoin his team here with the minefield as GC Busan are going to go for the final couple of defenses. BM Hawk have the momentum behind their back, looking for a minefield play, but GC Busan also need to pull the trigger early. Camille's dead. They got a nano Inhyok now.
Dude cannot catch a break, and I mean, it keeps happening over and over where a really clean dive comes onto him. They end up having to force Nano onto Silvercoin. He was about to die otherwise. Pulse Bomb goes right from Becky, but here we go. This could be the pivot point as the nice push forward on the back of the Primal Rage. They've scattered BM Hawk. A lot of low members. Good DMAC here to protect Inhyok. 4 HP. He's gonna live. That beggars belief, but you better believe it nonetheless, as BM Hawk will get repelled here. And I mean, this is still doable in equal measure for both teams. It's gonna come down to execution of these last few fights.
Yeah, really nice clutch nano coming through from Quasar, and second one that he's done so far in this matchup. Keeping GC Busan alive there, a little bit of respawn advantage. No Graviton, no rally needed from GC Busan either, which is great for the rest of the defense. It's not like it's possible that BM Hawk are also going to have a time bank of 0 here. Both teams will be completely even. Match it up in that next phase of gameplay. Let's assuming BM Hawk can finish this one they have. Double support ultimates online. Rally will be matched on both sides. It's whether they can survive cleanly against a Silvercoin grab. That will be the question. And if there's a time to go on, it's now for BM Hawk.
Although is so onto it. That lack of extra healing means Silvercoin's brought low. Has to be cagey about how he commits the grab, but they pop it on top of Yahoo. That forces Papadog in deep. They've taken out Babel, but losing Gurio means Becky is a man alone. Losing Inhyok as well means Silvercoin's a man alone. Good stick onto Papadog though. Take the supports out from under BM Hawk as Sanguinar gets dispatched off. Huge charge on Silvercoin. Quasar's back out into the mix as well. You want to see them survive the self-destruct. Becky not so lucky, but they do deal with Protect. They're looking to hold on. Huge charge still on Silvercoin. That'll repel BM Hawk, who only have one last chance now.
And that's Becky saving the day there. Despite although getting a great stick on the Quasar, Becky also gets a good one to Papadog. With Sanguinar following in terms of the death straight afterwards. BM Hawk have 0 healing. If they at least had 1 healer in there, maybe they can get it across the line still. GC Busan holding out now till the final hour. It's going to be 20 seconds remaining. BM Hawk have only got 1 shot, and actually GC Busan have the superior ultimates. They got Bob, they got the Nano here. They can pull the trigger early, they can make the play.
Definitely feels like they're in the better position, and there it is. The Nano already onto Inhyok. Maybe even a fraction of a hair too early, but nonetheless, big pressure onto Yahoo. They're just keeping people away from this point. That's the end of the Nano. Nearly on a Primal. No, although gets a stick. The Bob's out. It's got to do big work. It's not. It's already taken care of. So now it's just at a disadvantage. BM Hawk coming in hot. 5 versus 6 for GC Busan. They do get Inhyok back out, but as soon as he's back out, they lose Gurio. Now it's Becky under fire. Needs that pulse bomb. They lose Lego. Babel is free firing at the back break. Are you joking?
Mine's going to be super useful in that last phase there as well. Silvercoin can't quite get the touch. I believe might have been booped up by Yahoo, who's still spinning around as the ball. Or indeed possibly booped up by Protectors on the Diva. In either case, GC Busan or not have anybody alive there to get the final touch. Becky was looking for a stick. A lot of kills come the way of BM Hawk. I'm fairly certain that BM Hawk win that regardless of whether GC Busan can contest or not, so that part doesn't really matter to me. BM Hawk finding
like it.
necessary kills, although with another great stick, denying Inhyuk of finding that primal rage, which would have been so important. So BM Hawk finding these 6v5s to start the day with a Bob that, okay, doesn't last super long, but does the job. Bob's going to start the initial touch on the payload to get that time bank rolling, with Yahoo being forced out a little bit earlier due to the nano. Now when we start to look at it, the nano feels early, and that's because Inhyuk was on half HP. Quasar got a little bit nervous there, popped in the nano into Inhyuk. You can see from his POV, he had no one to dive. He's thinking about the situation, like, where do I actually go? Okay, Yahoo's on the flank. Yahoo's actually on the flank because he's looking to make the final touch on the payload. Dives Yahoo, who just rolls away as a ball. Not your prime target there, so nano doesn't get you any value. And for GC Busan, they would love if they could use that again.
And look, as well, you know, I think it's a shame that GC Busan lost the opportunity to have some big playmaking. They did just have a Primal Rage running. They had some decent charge, nearly a grab on Silver Coin, but that being beside the point, they do at least come in even Stevens here, so they're not out of it just yet. They did get the quicker ACAP as well.
Gurio instantly swapping over, so GC Busan are kind of changing strategies here. Okay, he wasn't going to be playing Widowmaker for too long, but was also on towards the Ashe and kind of giving that up. Hasn't found a ton of success in the Ashe previously. Silvercoin has been a bit of a carry on the Zarya in terms of getting this energy charge. We'll see if they have time to wait for it, because if we want to play a nano boost strategy, when looking at a nano boost within 1 minute, well, they only have 1 minute total.
And they're not even halfway there with 15 seconds now on the clock, just passing halfway up to 60% now, but it's not going to be in time. They're going to have to find some other way in. Maybe Becky makes a play, but Babel is free firing up on this top, straight down onto the tanks.
He's helping the nano boost charge actually come on in right now, and I think Becky has to go for the touch. He does.
Okay, and Hyuk is super low. Nope, doesn't get the nano boost. I think that's going to seal it. They needed that, and he had it, but he didn't have the eyeline. Instead, they deliver it to Becky, who has to get so much work done. Already missing the shots, not quite connecting it onto Babel, as meanwhile in the ground game, you see GC Busan get completely swept away. It's just Becky and Inhyuk left alive. Becky did at least take out one. Gurio took out another, but they themselves are dead. Inhyuk's a man alone on this point. They're not even walking away with a third. Just a huge timing disconnect there, and it was a very all-in strategy. You can't entirely blame it, but the nano boost timing was almost there, just not quite.
I mean, the slam from Yahoo was beautifully timed as well in terms of getting onto the back line that disrupts Lego and Quasit from getting necessary healing or even sight lines onto Inhyuk and the tanks. With both Inhyuk and Silvercoin down so early, we see Silvercoin was one of the members that decided to go for a bit of a touch as the Zarya of all heroes. And at that point, you're kind of implicated because your main tank's gone. You're heavily in front lines, kind of out of position. And GC Busan had no damage. Nano onto Becky. Nano Tracer is really average, honestly. Unless you have a pulse bomb, it's not going to be the best. Doesn't find a kill, and BM Hawk comfortably hold that. Face on. Great damage from Ordo. Great picks from Ordo once again, is backed up by Babel on the high ground window, just looking down. Eye of God as the dynamite damage was taken through the left flank damage as well. And BM Hawk now target in front of them. One tick is what they need. Still opportunity for a draw though if GC Busan's defense is good.
It's a very all-in teleporter strat here. Gurio will be ferried back by Lego. There we go, going to be on a Sombra, makes sense. Really touch and go, actually getting back to this point in time between him and Lego, not going to lie, but GC Busan have laid the rest of this trap well enough.
I mean, once BM Hawk, okay, they actually check the top ground as well. I mean, what they probably see is we don't see anybody over towards the choke. Near the statue as well, Mundata. It's going to be translocated down. They might be hiding somewhere. And dude, they got found. GC Busan, they just got to make a dive happen. They're kind of all over the place right now.
Yeah, they need to recenter themselves quick, smart. You see Silvercoin trying to cover Becky, getting back in towards the rest of the team, trying to roll it back. But as they're rolling back, BM Hawk are continuing the forward pressure, and they've got a much more robust composition. I feel to take this in a quick minute. You're seeing Becky under pressure, isolated, taken down. A little bit too ballsy on the flank there. Explodes at his own base. BM Hawk now looking very comfortable. 65 pressuring the point. Inhyuk taken down. Quasit to follow. They only need to get that 1/3 and they punch their ticket to the playoffs. Easy as you like. BM Hawk proving that they are the better of the two.
Yeah, I mean, for what a play coming through. BM Hawk, they were able to scout so early, protects the high ground sort of hiding spot that GC Busan were holding in, finds a translocator as well. It's all these small details that BM Hawk have in their favor. And GC Busan was split. They need to get a dive going. They need to consolidate and be able to jump on top of BM Hawk. But BM Hawk just, they started rotating over towards the point. Huge pressure that GC Busan had to overcome. And they drop members. They can't get any ultimates, even on a composition that Alucia Mora is really good for Winston. It seemed like they put all their eggs in the Winston basket and it did not turn out.
And I feel like that happened, more than once, if you will, for GC Busan, where, timings just didn't work out. Particular ultimates weren't able to be delivered at the right moments to the right people. If anything, the closeness actually, I think, is impressive when you consider that, because it speaks a lot, I think, to the explosivity of GC Busan, the fact that they were still able to make some really solid powered high octane plays happen. And we did see, the few moments where they just had these super slick, super clean engages where everything fired at the right times. I'm drawn all the way back actually to University on Oasis, where they had a super slick engage, super cheap in terms of ultimates, but we kept seeing that falter time and time again on the other maps. BM Hawk, on the other hand, they had that same explosivity. You saw it out of the likes of Although and Babel, but on top of that, they had a general, if you will, hygiene. There was a cleanliness to all of their play that I feel GC Busan, on the other hand, lacked. So BM Hawk absolutely deserve it off consistency alone, and they're even better than just a consistent team as well.
Let's go to play the match now for our BM Hawk team. It was going to go to the member, especially as we got later into the game, that had such high impact here. Although on the Tracer, beautiful sticks all round. Finding all these opening picks, get you those 6v5s. And a player that really makes his ball dive work as well. One of our players coming through from O2 Blast on loan. So, yeah, I mean, look, BM Hawk at the end of the day, even with Kings Row being a closer map, the other two before that were definitely more one-sided, especially Hanamura, the better team today all round. A 3-0 and a clean sweep here where GC Busan had some hope on their Kings Row attack especially, but other than that, it was looking pretty poor.
Overall, I've got to say, BM Hawk, they take it away cleanly in a 3-0. I'm actually a little bit surprised that we had a 3-0 in this one. I was expecting maybe something a little bit more contentious between the two teams, but you can't say they don't deserve it. They get to go up against Team CC as well, who after the loss to Incendia are looking extremely fallible. So this is the best outcome a team like BM Hawk could have possibly hoped for after getting absolutely dealt to by the likes of O2 Blast and T1 over in their own group in Group A. But moving on forward, they punch their ticket directly into the playoffs. It's not quite all over just yet for GC Busan. They get a second chance. That chance doesn't come up till tomorrow, but today we will find out who they get their second chance against, as now we turn our attention to an elimination matchup. That elimination matchup will take place just after this break. GG well played to BM Hawk, and now we'll have to see if the next game is going to be a GG or a BG. Or a Bee Gees record.
I was going to say, why'd you have to drop the Bee Gees into this?
Could just be a Bee Gees music video, but like an hour and a half long.
A Bee Gees music video, esports theme called GG's.
By the way, I use my walk. I'm a woman's man with no time to talk.
I could interpret that as like, does that mean you're like a mama's boy? I'm not too sure.
Yeah. I realize it's really ambiguous. Like, if you're like a baby who's just started walking, then it also makes sense. Because, like, you can tell by the way I use my walk, as in poorly, I am a very small child. I'm a woman's man, a mama's boy, with no time to talk because I haven't started speaking yet.
It's true.
That would make a lot of sense.
Starlight Gaming plays WGS now. That's what we'll talk about. And with a limited amount of time. It's an elimination game. Our first elimination game of the postseason here. Loser is eliminated from the entire season and contenders, actually, so it's pretty dire. Straight back into trials, and the winner continues forward into play-ins, facing Jisoo Busan in tomorrow's matchup. Winner, of course, goes through to playoffs. Loser is also eliminated, but at least will stay in contender. So winning this game has far higher stakes than the match that we just saw. Starlight Gaming and WGS Phoenix right now are kind of fighting for survival in terms of their capability of staying in contenders.
By the way, I've just noticed that Starlight, their logo is missing like the bottom 2 points of the star. WGS's logo has those 2 points. So if you put these two teams together, you have one successful logo. That is all.
I think WGS just have a big W, and that's all you need. They're looking for the big W.
They're looking
today.
for the big W.
Yes, they are. One big W to get them through into the next matchup, another big W to get them to playoffs. So, 2 big Ws. A double W, a quadruple U is what they're looking for at this point in time. Starlight Gaming are a team that have already been to trials. They came out of trials last season to come back into contenders. It would be a shame for them to drop again. It would equally be a shame for WGS to drop in as a team that's been a mainstay of contenders' career for so long now. Even before we got the contenders' career, WGS were here. They were that team back then in, what year was it? 2019, where they were 0-7 in that second season. So, not a great showing. And WGS, instead of being a champion, they've been a top team. They've been in a rebuilding phase this year. And arguably, this has been one of their lowest placements so far. They are not guaranteed for playoffs. And if WGS Phoenix were then to drop into trials, that would be definitely, you know, the greatest fall from a team that used to be champion.
It would be a really tough way to end the year. Like you said, a real fall from grace, as it were. But obviously, the path doesn't necessarily end immediately. And there is something to be said for the ability to re-qualify into subsequent seasons as well. Just because you drop out here and have to go back through relegations doesn't mean you won't make it through said relegations. And WGS are one of those teams you kind of tip to make it through relegations. Even then, there's sort of a history there. That being said, yeah, this puts them in a really tough situation. And remember, the winner of this, if they do actually want to continue a playoffs run, then has to go up against GC Busan. Make no mistake, don't be fooled by their loss to BM Hawk just now. Obviously, this is GC Busan, who have already beaten WGS Phoenix. So if it's WGS who win, then the path gets no easier for them. Starlight, on the other hand, at least there's that air of mystery around what their record against GC Busan might look like, how they might actually be ranked relative to them. Because based on BM Hawk's performance, kind of starting to look like A might have been the stronger of the two teams. By the way, in some languages, W is called double V, which makes sense if you think about it.
And both teams will be looking for the double Vs here. 2 victories. 1 here, 1 tomorrow as well. Starting with Starlight Gaming, I mean, the big name on this is going to be Taka from Week 5. We watched Starlight versus JNGK 5-map series, going the full distance. Taka on the Hanzo, oh my goodness, so good. And the hit scan here as well on those McCrees. Very powerful stuff. Taka had such incredible gameplay. I still remember the clip of Rialto where he just deleted everyone, demolished the blade coming out of, if I can remember it correctly, I think it was Spint's blade. Just didn't even get to pull it. I didn't even get to unsheathe the sword, and Taka deleted him on Rialto C. So that is something that very much is in the back of my mind looking at Starlight Gaming. Are they going to be playing more of those types of compositions, using Taka's mechanical prowess on the hit scans to pull them through? What's Starlight Gaming's game plan for Plains going to be in terms of the open meta? Do they, there's options for Lucio Brawl again. We haven't really seen that in our previous matchup. Doesn't mean that no teams will play it. I'm sure T1 would love to play that a little bit later on in the actual playoffs itself. And here you have a sort of situation where there's plenty of good McCree comps. I mean, you look at the Lucio Bap into Brian Brawl. Great composition, add the May in there. You look at some pretty good stuff. Deep roster as well. They start with Decal, where previously in that 5-map series, they had substitutions between Decal coming in. I mean, who else do we have on this team? We had some Spera coming in as well to play certain heroes. Spera coming in mostly for the Sombra, if I remember correctly. Decal had some Tracer in there. A couple of projectile picks in there as well. So, opening control looks like it should be Decal, Tracer onto Taka on all of the options already mentioned. Starlight Gaming have some decent potential, but looking at their group now as well, they had the harder group. They had reasonably worse results. WGS had better results, but they had better results versus teams like CC, who looked a little bit weaker, and versus GC Busan, who, as we've just seen, kind of faltered 3-0 to BM Hawk.
And I think as we kind of square up against their opponents now, WGS, I mean, you kind of start to see the one-to-one comparisons to be drawn. I mean, Hidden Vulture are both really excellent DPSs in their own right. I think that DPS head-to-head in particular is going to be a real hotbed, but I'm also drawn particularly to a wrong in this particular instance. Don't really have too much extra to say about the tank lineup here. I don't think that's going to be like the real keystone, if you will, of this particular matchup. I feel like, especially the likes of Vulture, and actually there's something to be said there for the change up in the hero pools, obviously with things like Echoes and Ashes coming into the mix. That's where I think we could really start to see Vulture shine even more so than he does at present.
That's definitely one of Vulture's better heroes. I think Tracer Echo is going to be that kind of composition for the side of WGS Phoenix. It's just a bit of a shame because now it's like, because of GC Busan and where they were in that group, you start to have to look at that new group under a different context, under a new set of eyes. Like, was it like just a weaker group? Do you have to take the results from Group B now with a grain of salt? And that's something you didn't have to do previously. So WGS Phoenix, I mean, jury's out here. I'm not actually convinced that WGS Phoenix, despite their reputation, is necessarily a favorite here. I think Starlight in their final week started to, much like Incendia Evolution, kind of have this resurgence, especially on the back of Taka. And if Taka pops off again, I mean, WGS Phoenix would have to do quite a bit. They have to put in a lot of effort to come up against that.
I think with that, everything's kind of laid out pretty clearly. Stakes are set, both in the short and the long term. You know, we've kind of talked about the sort of the immediate goals and in particular players, what we're expecting out of them, what the challenges are going to be. But there's that wider thing still of this being an elimination matchup. There's a kind of tension sitting in the air around this matchup. Obviously, you hit the business end of the tournament and suddenly all the dominoes start to fall really quickly. You know, across the last week of groups, we immediately cut 2 teams off and you sort of go, cool, now these remaining 8, they have a bit of safety coming forward into the play-ins and playoffs. But that's not really true because we immediately send another team home again. And I mean, I think it's then like I get straight into next week. We have the double elimination bracket, so I think we have like a day or two where we don't have any elimination matches and then bam, straight back into it. So these are teams that are fighting for their lives in a big way. I mean, right. Even Starlight, I think if anything, actually WGS more so, are probably reflecting on their season and thanking their lucky stars that the team in their group that got eliminated, Incendia Evolution, didn't start really firing until the very last week where it wasn't going to save their bacon. I think WGS are looking at that going, wow, we actually dodged a seriously threatening matchup. If we'd had to play them in the final week, they may not have even been there, and they don't even get an opportunity to rest on their laurels. Out of the frying pan into the fire.
Whereas Starlight Gaming have that going for them because they also similarly showed up in that last week. Sure, it was only versus JNGK. Still a good matchup, full 5-map series. That was an elimination game. Literally, if you lose that, you go home, you're done, you don't go to play-ins. Starlight Gaming buy themselves a little bit of extra time. A 1-3 record. Taka showing up huge. And now, that's WGS. And by the way, both teams in the group stage played a lot of Orisa. I don't necessarily think that means they come up with Orisa today. In fact, that raised a lot of questions for me because now that we're in an open meta, you're not forced to have to go for these Orisa compositions. If you don't want to, you can actually play anything now. So the other thing is, Orisa compositions traditionally have been weak to Brawl. They've been weak to Ryan Brawl quite a decent amount. So Starlight versus WGS now. See what we open up with. Sanctum is actually still pretty reasonable for Orisa, so it doesn't surprise me that Arpin had highlighted that pick straight off the bat. So unclear exactly what either team's going to run through just yet. I think Starlight's a little bit more locked in terms of what they probably will run. Decal coming through on the Sim to TP, then back over towards the Tracer for a Sigma Ball.
Eyes on those DPSs still, naturally. We do get the straight up head-to-head between Hidden and Taka on the Ashes. That'll always be a fun one. And yeah, we're going to have double shields coming on WGS with the Hanzo as well. It's going to be an interesting one. They're looking more to sort of sit back and take a pitched battle.
Like a long-range sniper kind of composition from WGS. It's all about the poke. Very heavy poke as well. Molga's going to have a tough time keeping the shield up, but Starlight, they're not working with shields. They don't have to work on shields. It's not part of the game plan. They need to set up dives. They got to get a slam in from Sungun, then have Taka land a headshot with Arpin taking Taka down. Don't even know how that happened. Shouldn't even happen. SLT down one.
And that's the sort of thing that was only a matter of time if SLT ended up stuck in that pitched battle, which unfortunately was what happened to Taka there. No surprises as with that, WGS just had the straight up man superiority. Now they don't have to sit back and have that long range duel across the stairs. They can kind of sit back and take this pitch battle from the point itself.
This is where Overwatch needs to think about going Mercy here as well. You're not actually going to get any value on the Brig here because you're not in a situation where someone from WGS is diving you. There's zero backline pressure. Starlight needs to boost up Taka's damage as much as possible. He's just not got anything to play behind. I mean, Vulture and Hidden have so much more.
It's a good kill onto Arong, but I've got to say the damage is still so threatening from WGS that I don't know that that's much reprieve for Starlight, but killing Arpin, that is in a big way. Suddenly Sungun is able to start getting aggressive. Even then, it's not as easy as you'd think. It takes a lot of damage, has to roll away, but it buys them time to get the rest of the pieces in position, get their ducks in a row. WGS will finally get more or less dislodged. They do get a couple of late kills though. Hold on, that one from Arong could be big. He's come back in on the respawn. Actually, the cap will go over to Starlight, but with Sungun dead, I think WGS are going to be able to get back on this very quickly.
It's borrowed time for this cap. I mean, Starlight will get, what, 7, 8%? Less than 10 here as WGS will have to get the cap unimpeded, or exactly 10 on the dot. Vulture with the Hidden on those ultimates. Didn't even need the Dragon Strike. Died with the Dragon Strike in the last fight, actually. And now they have the extra Admextrix to play behind. Starlight have to get a perfect dive and dislodge the Admextrix play. Otherwise, it's going to be rough. Here comes Dragon Strike.
Oh, and it's already cut off the, I mean, not even the tip of the spear. It's sliced halfway down the shaft as Emolga and Overwatch get taken out. Now half of Starlight is left high and dry. You already see WGS piling in to pick him off, and it's a slow burner as well. Each of these kills is taking a couple of seconds to come through, which means Starlight are losing so much time trying to reset.
It's nearly final fight. In fact, it is final fight. And WGS have had to hold on to everything. They didn't have to use any ultimates. It's one Dragon Strike and about 5 other ultimates in back currently. Arpin's nearly on that supercharger style. They've not got a lot of options. Flux is going to be huge here, but both sides have the Flux.
I love this. It's a bob right to the choke. Look at that. It's a tri-point, 3 angles of fire. All of those ultimates used, just thrown everything in there, Starlight, because they kind of had to. Now as it wheels back around to the point, it's a good kill on Albad, but honestly, I don't think it's going to be anywhere near enough. As you already see Bono coming in to clear out those mines, get the retake. Decal is already dead. WGS, they're just keeping this tri-point setup. They've got their open firing line. Starlight are going to struggle to get members onto this point, and everyone that does go on is probably going to die. It's going to be Sungun first, looking to be Emolga now as the Dragon Strike rakes across. Oh, Aron goes over the edge. It's a bit of an unfortunate one, but still, Overwatch taken down. Mac are going to be dead as well. Even with the loss of Arpen, there's still more than enough presence on this point for WGS. Just between Bono behind the shield and Vulture sitting up with this very clean firing line.
Very easy for WGS in this matchup here as Omika. They gave away the point one time and Starlight got an initial 10%, another extra 15 that Starlight will be able to tuck away. Not a great showing other than that though. Taka barely had an angle to play with. Every single time he poked his head out, copped a stray arrow or a shot from Hidden's rifle. And WGS, I mean, double shields for their 2 snipers to play behind. Such a good matchup where Starlight never really initiated a good dive, and the only way to play around that is you have to get the Sungun ball in. You have to knock up some members for Taka to be able to get the shots. The other issue here is, okay, that's the theory for how you want to play ball, but because this big pit in the middle, it's kind of difficult for Sungun to rotate around properly. So now that we're on a more open map for Shrine, Starlight playing the same comp again should find more valuable. The Mulga on towards Zarya, I don't know if I like that. The D.Va is preferred versus what WGS are running because it's heavy poke comp.
Now, I mean, it's kind of just lean into it once again. WGS, they've been very comfortable with Hidden and Vulture so far. Good opening scrap here as the Immortality Field committed from Arong, but it doesn't get contested. Hidden finds Taka. That's really big. Arong is low in a little bit of trouble, but they're able to keep the heat off him as Emolga gets dropped. Now Decal stunned up. Not long for this world. Very clean execution from WGS.
And at least Overwatch's matchup here with the Brig is somewhat justified because Vulture's on the Tracer, but still not the best. Still would like to see the potential for a Mercy. Starlight have to think about their comp. There it is, both the D.Va and the Mercy, as I ordered, straight away delivered. Give that a 5-star rating a little bit later on for Starlight. Only if... And also get this matchup. I haven't tasted the dish yet.
Even if service with a smile so far, but you've got to see if the flavor profile is there. You know, the mouth feel, the palate.
It's true, it's true.
Another culinary term, I don't know. I don't like to think about working in hospo anymore, but WGS, I mean, they're already being put to work on this point now, leaning into the Immortality Field again. Does get taken out, but now they've got the window to fire through. Beautiful stick. Mucker is done. And that is a really great one to take out. Vulture's on an absolute tear. Decal not quite able to get the same kind of work done. The res is out, but Decal taken out as well. So still a man advantage for WGS. And that's with Starlight not even really getting to fight on towards the point. It's just been WGS again, happy to sit back, take this pitch battle with the flankers running interference. Hidden dying on the dive is really important. This is the biggest opportunity presented to WGS so far. They're going to use the rally, sort of sitting back into that. Maka taken down for a second time. Overwatch looking to follow him. Maybe able to duck away to safety. Wrong again loses the Immortality Field, but honestly, Starlight aren't even really on the point while this is all playing out. So WGS are more than happy to continue scrapping in this way.
The only thing WGS are losing is the Immortality Field. They don't lose members because Immortality Field's just saving everyone's life right now. WGS aren't really that threatened anyway. Bono somehow takes down Taka with a straight sphere. It's a hypersphere, I think that's what it's called. An SLT, I mean, they just can't get any value here. Taka, who's been such a big carry, just can't get a fair matchup, even with the Mercy in the pocket. Struggling to get an angle. As WGS are already reaching final fight here, and SLT don't even have that extra 10% that they had on Sanctum here. Look at the ultimate supercharger down.
Yeah, I mean, this is an absolute nothing burger from Starlight that tossed the Bob in first. He's got a bit of a firing line, more or less, onto Bono, but again, Immortality Field is in for the save. They're taking that down. Here we go, Hidden dead with this Transcendence at their back, but eyes on Bono. He can still cut off the rest of his team here. Looking to go straight in onto the slam down. Does not find the follow-up, but it's taken up so much time of Overwatch and Maka that WGS have no problem closing out the rest of the fight.
Wow, that looked easy. I mean, WGS, we noted that both teams had a lot of performances on the Orisa previously in the regular season meta, where it was pretty heavy Orisa, to be fair. WGS are thinking, I mean, we were good at that. Let's just keep playing that, but then add the extra shield in with the Bono Sigma, play double snipers behind, or, you know, maybe even have the extra Tracer in there for good measure for Shrine. Both options work out beautifully. And not a lot to show on the other end, unfortunately, where, okay, Starlight have some good pieces, but you never got to see Taka be put in a position to succeed. He was always in a poor matchup, shooting 2 shields as a single sniper versus 2, or versus 1, and also a Trace in the backup. I mean, the fact that Bono even has the capability of pushing up, getting the kill, the fact that Arpen gets the initial kill onto Taka for Sanctum as well, like, that's weird. That shouldn't happen. So, yeah, and matchup-wise as well, not ideal. Overwatch finally brought out the Mercy for Shrine, but these are all changes that they make after they see what the compositions are, which maybe is just a misread. Maybe they're not expecting the double shield to come out once again for Shrine. Unfortunately, they're wrong, and they're in a tough spot after that.
And I mean, furthermore, that's all with nothing to be said for the fact that, like WGS, were just allowed to consistently play their game plan. They went, all right, we're going to sit back, hunker behind these shields, have this nice ranged pitched fight, like even more so, obviously, on the first map there of Nepal, with the Hanzo in play. But like even then, when they had just the Ashe sort of hanging out behind the shields in that pitched battle, looking to just, you know, fire artillery across no man's land, essentially. You then also had the Tracer just constantly running interference, finding excellent picks, finding backliners like Maka, running a bit of harassment at times on Taka. So you talk about Taka not being able to play the game plan. I mean, by comparison, WGS, they got to do everything they wanted to do with very little disruption, if any, And it's no surprise that ended up being 100-0, and I could argue almost an effective 100-0 on the first map, because you got to remember the 2 times the point actually got capped by Starlight, it was in a losing battle. They didn't win those fights. They just squeaked out 25%. Yep. It was Pyrrhic victories.
10% early on, instantly capped back, 15% at the end.
Yeah.
Instantly capped back, straight into the 100. So, matchup-wise, not a good start coming through, obviously, from Starlight. They can fix that, though. I mean, there's 2 more maps at least to be played, if not more, where they have to think about the fact that, moving forward here, it's likely to be more double shield. If so, what then? What is the response going to be? A lot of teams, if they have the capability, they play towards a brawl, Sim TP onwards. Sim is going to burn through the shields very quickly. Ryan is going to run over the Orisa. It's very difficult to stop the Ryan. That is the most simple solution if you have the capability to run that comp and you know what you're doing. But beyond that as well, yeah, I mean, you saw Attacker come through on the Hanzo. They were thinking about, can we break shields? But it's a single Hanzo versus double shield. You still need a little bit more help than that. If you want to run ball and you want to try and dive, these dives need to come through and they need to be valuable, and you need to be able to connect on the back line. Because if you can take down the back line and force them out, multi-angle engage versus double shield, then you've got purchase. But if you're just doing this front-to-back thing, you're never breaking through.
And even then, when you saw situations, where something started to get set up, really, WGS had no problem pivoting to have just these beautiful cross-angled firing lines. Like, I think one of the most classic ones was throwing the barb out behind the engaging team. You had the Hanzo on one side, you had the Ashe on the other, both with a bit of tank support, barb on the third side, and like you're just stuck in a room, kettled in completely, taking an absolute pummeling from all sides, and you got one shield that you can put in one direction at any given moment. They would never get out of that. Like, WGS had no issue just pivoting every single engagement to be just to have the overall geometry of the fight work in their favor, work towards their team comps goals, and undercut Starlight's team comps goals. We move now to Temple of Anubis, this of course being Starlight's map pick. Loser will always pick the subsequent maps from here on out after the first one. With that, I mean, I think this is going to be a bit of a toughie here for Temple of Anubis, because now we start looking especially at things like Echo, and we already kind of talked about that being a pretty decent pick. I mean, it's arguably a decent pick for both teams, but it really feels like a Vulture special, almost.
I don't even know that they need it. Like, if they want to play more double shield, it seems like a pretty unnecessary thing to do. They can just play double snipers again. November coming in for decal. Okay. Starlight were thinking about potential, and Spare is in for Taka, by the way, as well. So are they thinking about potential projectile options? Okay, Vulture is going to hover over the Echo and confirm it as a defending, so yes, why not? Yeah, Echo spams pretty well. It seems reasonable for a projectile option. So Starlight Gaming, assuming they have going to do some homework here, and now that they know WGS are going to be quite prone to a Orisa, they got to find that answer. A lot of teams are going to want to play the Winston Nanobu strategy on the attack. Is it going to be enough? Can they find the actual damage, though? Because we've already seen that fail today. We've already seen Winston not quite give you what you need.
All right, then. Let's roll out. Vulture, no surprise there on the Echo, and I'm curious to see what November is capable of on the same pick. Main difference, I suppose, is you're going to have Overwatch ever so slightly more in the pocket of November. WGS don't have the same option.
That extra damage boost as well is going to be important for getting November up in terms of charge. First duplicate will be nice. Vulture's ahead currently. Maka looking to heal up some damage on the Sunga, but they're not really shooting him, so they got to go for the rotation early. At least a couple of them are. I believe that's November on the side flank, and already that means Hidden's pressured to check over the side windows. Manual hack with the Alban.
This is a good rotation here from Sparrow. He's right where he needs to be sort of maximum nuisance. November getting a great dive onto Alban, who's sort of left a little high and dry. As much as November's taking damage, oh, hot damn! Overwatch is out of the pocket at the worst possible moments. Now he's also going to go down, so no res opportunity. Even then, it would have been resing into an unfavorable situation, both positionally and in terms of overall numbers. Good late kill onto Vulture when you got Starlight still resetting and Vulture coming back pretty quickly on the Echo. I don't think it's going to present much of a window of opportunity.
I mean, the one opportunity they had was the manual hack onto Orbam, and suddenly November drops onto him. That's a 6v5 to start things out, with Vulture almost win. I think that was nearly a 1v2 there, with November and Overwatch peeling him in the pocket. believe Arpin dropped in a little bit of damage to help Vulture, who is still currently ahead in terms of ult charge. Sungin dropping in with a nano now, straight into the back line.
Excellent damage. You see Hidden able to rope-a-dope away on the back of the Coach Gun. Vulture dead in the 1v1 as well. Good trade back. Overwatch down means no res, so November, he does get the work done, but that's about all the work that's going to get done between him and Sungin. They're relying purely on those two tanks and Spira. Sungin with his primal is still getting heaps done, though, and it's probably going to be just enough. He's still got Arpen looking to sit tight. They've got Bono dead to rights off to the side even as they take down Sungin. Good see back on Violetta. He's very vulnerable, but he takes down Arpen. He's going to be able to live and get back in that mech, and that's going to be it. Starlight are going to be able to break A.
I mean, November just dropping after getting... Well, he gets 2 kills and posthumously as well on that sticky bomb kill. Brilliant stuff, getting both the WGS's supports out of the way there. And for Starlight as well, they might lose both their supports, but in that 4v4, Starlight has the greater respawn advantage, so they get to reinforce a little bit quicker. WGS, not quite the same. Violetta cleaning things up with a couple more frags. It's WGS barely with the opportunity to use any ultimates, and the silver lining is that they will get to use them now for this big defense. Starlight should be finding this now double cap opportunity very difficult to achieve.
So the long defense begins. The one silver lining for Starlight is going to be an EMP. A good enough EMP can always change the balance of power and the ultimate advantage in a very big way, but we have to see it actually land. It's going to be hard. WGS well split, and they read the play as well. The only person who really suffers from it is Bono. He does go down, but the rest of the team is able to commit some good ultimates. November, this is a really nice duplicate, but I have to say he needs to be able to get in position. May not be able to get a supercharger off at this rate, looking to drop out of the duplicate long before that becomes a factor. Violator forced to self-destruct, should be able to remix successfully. There's actually a good supercharger out of November, but it's maybe a hair too late. At least the supercharger persists after the duplicate ends. Bono's back in the mix now. Nice gravitic clutch to drop off Sungin. Starlight are going to find themselves coming up short. That's actually with being able to commit the EMP and the duplicate.
And the EMP only called Bono, though, and they barely got that kill. It required a bit of effort to get down the immortality field first. WGS still have a respawn advantage, mind you, so you're gonna have to get a significant number of kills here. Albem getting the rally timing there. Very clutch to be able to get the healing back in. The armor being handed up for WGS, and then Bono eventually slamming down with the flux is all you really need. And Starlight now going to be changing things up. Genji gonna be the play. Potentially a little bit more effective in terms of looking for a bit of a one and done. They didn't even get a tech, so getting a tick first and moving on is probably going to be the play. It's unlikely for them to get all 100% in one push here, which means it might take until the overtime before we see Starlight get the entire cap.
And as if they get it at all, there's always the possibility that WGS just pull one out, as it were. Manual hack onto Aaron, but he's not super threatened here. Both supports do have to duck for cover, but Sungin has not got too much out. There we go, though. That's a good find on Sabato. Arpen as well on the point. Able to drop a supercharger with Aaron's immortality field. Doesn't last for long, though, and neither does Arpen. So now with no tanks in the mix until Bono comes back out in this Diva, you see Starlight gets a presence on the point. The defense just kind of evaporates as Sungin keeps Albam and Aaron busy for so long that Starlight end up eventually just dealing with all the members of WGS one by one. Now that continues across the respawns. A couple of good kills in response, but with this Dragon Blade out and potentially even an EMP, I don't even know if it's going to be enough for WGS to rescue a desperate situation. Certainly not with the backline getting sliced to sardines by November. Vulture at least trades one back. They forced Starlight into full retreat. That's bizarre. They had an EMP they could have used.
They just started to run out of pressure there. I mean, November going down with the blade, gets a couple of kills, but they can't overcome the fact that WGS had that big respawn advantage. And it starts so well as well. I mean, we have a situation where the entire back line is caught by Sungin dropping in with a nano boost. Bono once again is the first target down. A late supercharger that Arpin barely, I mean, he doesn't even survive long enough to use it himself, and the other person that would love to use that supercharger is Vulture, who got hacked and slept. So WGS had to really pull through with dropping 2 ticks away, getting respawns in, and outlasting Starlight now, who are waiting for this EMP play to come through.
Vulture is really in deep with this. He tries to get ahead of it with the duplicate. That is a fat Bionade, though. Huge advantage already to Starlight. Just, I mean, that's to say nothing of the ultimate advantage. Don't quite think they intended to put the nano onto Overwatch, but I also don't think it's going to matter too much. Another sick Bionade from Maka. Really 2 for 2, landing those big nades on cooldown. Starlight now just looking to preserve the man advantage, taking out Bono, stopping the extra people from reinforcing the point. Vulture trying to hunker down, buy as much time as possible, but time for whom, I ask? You see Arpen and Hidden coming out. This has to be a huge Deadeye. It is going to not get deflected right back at them.
Huge
there you
burst
go.
ulti.
With that, November finishes off Vulture as well. Looks to pull out a second blade, and this one may yet close things out where the previous one couldn't. If he can get up to this Lucio. Nope, Sparrow's got it.
Manual hack at the bottom here as well. There wasn't going to be a remake anyway. Arpen's on critical HP, and Wrong does not have a nano. We would love to drop that nano in right now, but the team just isn't available. Vulture's been boot back, and WGS will clean things up off a very clean EMP into a blade. And SLT, I mean, you talk about the fact that we saw some really nice bio-nades in there, set up by the Graviton Surge from Violetta. Mac is going to just get the layup. With Starlight here, it's not going to take until the overtime. 21 seconds, so that's going to be the silver lining there, as initially, okay, it's going to be hard to get a full cap in. You can give away 2 ticks of the defense, come back for a full engage. SLT would have to win 2 back-to-back team fights to get a full cap in one go. So they have to come back for a second round, and that second round was pretty damn good.
Really, I mean, just impressive. Felt like WGS were only really holding on by the skin of their teeth for a lot of the runtime of those defenses, on B at least. Credit to it that they were able to run the clock down to the 21-second mark. Some of that was off the back of at least a decent early hold on A, even though it went the way of Starlight on the subsequent push. So time's the big factor. How quickly can WGS get it done, assuming they get it done?
잘 지내시죠? 반가워요. 안녕하세요.
So defense is going to be sunk in on towards the arrest. We talked about Starlight also favoring the arrest. This will be the first time they've shown that in the play-ins. A safe version with the Diva here as well. It's not going to be the double shield. It's got a little bit of capability to take down flyers, so that Ultra wants to go Echo. Colt November's matched it. Has Overwatch in the pocket once more, then also has some aerial support from Violetta's Diva on top of that. So WGS so heading on towards the Sombra, something that he's been playing a decent amount of. Good damage onto Arpen. That'll be transferred over towards Orong's Nano Boost, so very steadily getting this up.
Starlight just sitting pretty on the defense for the time being. We've got that nano available now. Looking to set Arpen up as the tip of the spear. It's a good timing window here. There's the commit. Nicely laid down. November feeling a bit of heat here. You're looking for the follow-up from Vulture as well. They don't quite get the big bust in that they were looking for. They do force some of Starlight back, but you haven't seen any big bio-nades landing on members to make them easy pickings, the likes of Arpen and Vulture, and instead you've now got Starlight coming up on some big ultimates. WGS, not quite the explosive fight they needed.
Their positioning, though, they've taken that entire right side room from attacker's POV here. Spirit has the bomb available to defend the point, but that might have to come out sooner rather than later, because WGS are already on that point currently. November, also the duplicate here. Well, it's going to have to use it now.
There it is. That's the kind of bio-nade we were looking for. The duplicate comes in. Arpen is done for. November just kind of sitting pretty. Bono demexed as well, so no tanks presence anymore for WGS. Sperry getting rezzed as well, so Starlight have recovered from that. Another good bio-nade, but the follow-up isn't quite there. Hedden isn't in position for it. Vulture certainly doesn't want to risk it up against November with no tanks to follow up, and this is a huge slowdown for Bono's money as well. He's got no good way to reset himself, no good way to get out of here. Starlight are keeping him around like a pet.
Oh, WGS are looking for this EMP play now, so let's see if it happens. It will catch 3 members. Pretty decent result. Sperry's left on the floor.
This might actually be the turning point for them, honestly, because Starlight took so much time hanging around Bono and marking his soon-to-be corpse, which ends up living anyway. However, hasn't been the quite dynamite they needed. Marking now down with the window. It's still a man advantage. Just barely scraping up to a 4v4 now. WGS, but with Starlight having the better positioning around the points, WGS not out of the woods yet.
Okay, well, it's going to be Macca down now, so WGS coming back into this fight. They have the nano boost, will go towards Arpen. Might even be on towards Vulture. This could be a duplicate play, although the fact that they're getting all these kills right now means they can save this as well.
This to be the self-destruct. Violator successfully resets. November not so lucky, and there's the kill onto Overwatch. Vulture finally just gets the freedom, the room to maneuver. You saw Starlight kind of kept up in a very tiny little concentrated location. It felt like only a matter of time. So WGS really managed to wangle a fight out of that particular engagement that was so protracted, in fact. Really impressive stuff, but they are lean on time.
Well, they do have ultimates coming online, though. This is going to be big. EMP with the duplicate available, with SLT not quite having much to play with. It's going to be a couple of changes over in the compositions for quite a few members. It's now a Winston dive. fresh Ana, fresh Brig. SLT only have this Bob to delay. It's a good ultimate, but I don't know it's going to be good enough. This is a very good opportunity for WGS to get a double cap.
Right onto the back line. Clean follow-up on the dive. Maka does not make it back to the base gates. Neither will Overwatch. That buys Vulture. And very timely Primal Rage. It's a shame Arpan couldn't get his own one out, but even then, I think the damage is done. Look at Sungun get melted under the combined guns here. Now Violetta out of the mech. Not going to last much longer. Spera desperately going to try and come in for a contest. Already a clean third picked up. You've got Maka and Overwatch hanging back. Oh my goodness, yeah, look at that. November dropped down very tidy. Primal available for Arpen, who's on his way back in. That'll be a critical hinge point for WGS. They just keep a little bit of gas in the tank, spare it down a second time. Nobody on the point.
Wow, dude.
What a time bank difference.
344 versus 21 in Starlight. At least, you know, thanking the lucky stars that they even had a time back, because otherwise they'd be playing for a draw and nothing else. WGS were nearly onto another nano boost, by the way. Arong was on something like 80% by the time the cap came on through. If SLT actually came in for a bit more of a stall on the cap itself, a further nano would then push WGS across the line. And how much damage does Vulture do? Just deleting members left, right, and center, barely taking damage himself. Primal Rage was beautiful stuff in terms of the duplication. EMP catches more than a few members, important ones like Spera, who had the Bob, slowing that down significantly. WGS now working SLT very hard, and a lot of these matchups as well that they are winning. We've talked about the fact that WGS have been good on the double shield. They then played some dive, also looked really good. SLT tried their own shield composition. No, it's not the double shield, it's the single shield, which will have a little bit more, again, variety and flexibility to take down flyers like Vulture. But with that being the case, I'm not too sure Violetta was able to pressure Vulture too hard. Neither was November, who starting to look like he's being gapped a little bit on this Echo position. Starlight now in quite a bit of trouble. 1 minute. I think if they can get maybe 2 ticks, that would be good.
It's going to be big pressure for Starlight. A lot of work to be done. WGS are very all in on this real hunkered down. Again, it's this pitched battle team comp that just served them so well on Nepal.
We're back in the same situation that we had in our last matchup as well. We saw in King's Row, when you got that 1 minute and you're playing for nanos, you gotta be getting this nano very quickly, within 50 seconds. Otherwise, you're going for the touch. You got nothing else to play with just yet. November dropping off from the Genji over towards the Echo, and oh, watch it, nearly dead. That's like literally 1 HP.
Oh my goodness. Whew, that'll put a few grey hairs on your head, no doubt. Except for me, I just go bald. Starlight now, they're not at all close enough, unfortunately, to this nano boost. They're going to have to find some other play, maybe a good manual hack. Just a heavy dive between November and Sungun, but there we go. Enough November, too much pressure from the turret. They're barely dealing with the simultaneity field with where it's tucked in. Spera desperately trying to make it happen. Overwatch forced to res around the side to bring November into the mix. But there we go, Bono down. Trade, though, is big as the tanks again just lean back, hunkered down. They kept pulling back, keeping the guns firing. Starlight taking a pummeling every inch of ground they tried to move forward. Classic defensive play. That felt old school, man. That was some World War I level stuff, and WGS very tidy defense.
We literally just saw November slowly float to his death with a turret firing at him, and then he dies to the turret. Like, what is going on here? And then obviously the rest of Starlight's OT, they try and make a play in. By the way, Maka dies at 70% to a nano, so not even close to getting that nano play. And they didn't really put a dent in WG's defense. I believe they killed Bono, and that was it. Starlight Gaming really looking like they're in trouble in this matchup here. It's a potentially comfortable 2-0 for WGS.
Well, 344. I mean, I don't want to put it in the bag just yet, but it did take them a wee while to cap A the first time around. They still did it with about a minute and change on the clock, so that 15 seconds less than the full 4 minutes they originally had doesn't really feel like it's going to be the difference maker.
Imagine,
Starlight are really going to have to pull one out on this defense.
Imagine not putting in the bag. Ye of too much faith, I'll say. It's WGS now. 344 to get a nano. I mean, oh, you'll get like 3 within that time. 344 is only 16 seconds less than regulation time.
Exactly.
Put that into context. So very, unlikely that Starlight will be able to hold this. WGS would have to make some pretty massive mistakes, something they haven't done so far. In fact, even playing this Hidden Sombra again means they have the opportunity for a big one and done. EMP blows up Sungun shields, drops Violet out of the skies, drops Overwatch and November out of the skies, and WGS can get player advantages off that. SLT have to make sure that they don't lose more than one member. One, they can res. Two, they're in trouble.
Look at the timing on this. This is what a 35-second nano boost. Compare that to Maka, who was at about 30% after a full minute. Arpen
Manual hack November as well.
Conveniently delivered right down the middle, and again, Arong straight in it with a huge Bionade. That forces an early res out, and that's a lot of ground already lost for the defense here. This WGS, the spear tip has been placed in. They continue to thrust the force down the shaft. It's gonna have to be Starlight kicking back across, snap the wood, break the timbers. November having to be the boot under which the spear is snatched like a twig. WGS will be repelled for this one, but that was not comfortable.
A couple of things that went really well for Starlight there. A, they actually got the res off. Overwatch was on nearly 1 HP, and the res doesn't get denied by RPN jumping in, by the way. November also got manually hacked, but didn't die. Sungun was staying on top of that middle high ground the entire time, also did not die. That was the best example of Starlight bending and not breaking there, because it was on the precipice. Losing Sparrow first and foremost could have been snowballed into losing November and Sungun next, and that did not happen, and Starlight stay alive.
Now WGS gonna have to be rebuilding ever so slightly. We'll be leaning into another nano boost push, though. This time it will be backed up with an EMP. Starlight, they're getting aggressive with that duplicate on November. It does get his primal off, so they're just trying to burn down the clock. This is sensible. Maybe even want to bait out some ultimates. WGS not going to take said bait, but it does let Sungun charge up the rest of that supercharger.
It seems like the duplicate was early, because now they don't have it for the actual defense. EMP catches 3, including November. This could be deadly here. Arpen has that nano behind him.
That supercharger, they're going to be able to deploy it. They didn't get any kills during the duration of that EMP. Vulture's own duplicate over onto the Diva. Maybe not the hardest Bono. Speaking of Divas, wants to self-destruct. Will he get anything with that? Will be able to remech at least. Vulture will find to get his own self-destruct off, and the remech, and it's in a tight little space with Maka and Sungun. Easy pickings for him. Yeah, Vulture gets picked off after the fact, but hey, Albab can go for a res after killing Overwatch with the pistol. Look at this man go. This man's a legend in his own right. WGS now, this is it. This is going to be the one to get them over the line. Didn't want to call it in the bag previously, but I tell you what, cats in the bag, bags in the river. WGS looking for a 2-0 lead.
Dude, unbelievable. Albam spots the play, puts it into his own hands there, like somebody's got to stop this res. It better be me. I'm going to dive in there. Gets the Glock out, completely pistol whips Overwatch, and then gets a secondary frag into his own res. Ooh, that's a play right there for WGS to end things out. And okay, the initial attempt, not as great, but note this as well. They had another nano boost straight away for the second attempt. Like, what is that? They had the EMP plus the nano boost one more time. Arong's getting these off cooldown. It's incredible how fast and how often this nano boost is available.
This guy can't be stopped. And I mean, for what it's worth, he laid down a nano boost, followed it up with an exceptional Bionade. On the whole, it just... WGS are just looking... They're looking cleaner, for one thing. They're looking more put together. They've got a game plan. They're able to execute on it without too much difficulty, really. Like, Starlight aren't doing much to disrupt WGS's game plan. It's more about whether or not they're able to stand up against it, and so far they haven't, really. There's been a few individual moments where they've been able to win a fight. That's all well and good, but they've not been able to actually, hold out against this WGS game plan, let alone really implement and execute their own. It just feels... in a strategic way, very one-sided, but I'll give credit where it's due to Starlight. I think there is a clutch factor, there is an explosivity that we haven't necessarily seen from them, but with the 2-0 lead in the hands of WGS, they're jonesing for that rematch against the likes of GC Busan, their Group B buddy. We'll have to see if they buy that rematch just after this break. What a surprise to be here again. 2-0 lead. And I gotta say, I don't know about you, but this isn't what I was expecting out of these play-ins, especially after the final week where we finally had some, some genuinely close, real nail-biter kind of games, and even a couple of upsets in that very, very last week of the regular season. We go straight into play-ins where the teams should be as evenly matched as ever, and we've already had 1 3-0, and we're on track to have another.
It's almost actually not surprising at all in a way, because the amount of 3-0 we've actually had in the season so far, there's been clear skill discrepancies in some cases, and that's mostly been from, the T1s and Talons of the world, etc. But even in the middle level, we're starting to get a little bit of that as well now, where
it's just discrepancies all the way down, baby.
Starlight Gaming had this great 5-map series versus J&GK, but we have this WGS coming through where and now nothing really makes sense, because it seemed like maybe Group B was in a weird spot because, you had the CC looking weaker, and then the GC Busan close game versus CC feels like, it's maybe more because CC was weak rather than GC Busan was doing well, being the fact that BM Hawk kind of very comfortably swept them away 3-0, and BM Hawk didn't have any close games versus the top 2 teams in their group. And then you have the sort of situation where, well then what about WGS's results in that same group? Because now you got to look at it under the same lens, and maybe that gives you a little bit more precedence to say that Starlight Gaming can come in very competitive and very strong. Not really. They get the time bank on Anubis, and that's about it. And then if WGS get this way bigger time bank, and let's not even forget about Nepal, which seemed quite one-sided as well.
Speaking of time banks, obviously Kings Row went to what was technically a time bank, and even then wasn't enough for the already losing team. Once again, it is the losing team that picks the map. So that's Starlight Gaming taking us over to Numbani. I guess that makes sense based on what they've been wanting to play so far tonight. We'll have to see how WGS choose to react, how they choose to adapt their game plans to this, because so far they seem like they've been the more strategically robust team.
We're starting up for Starlight here. WGS RPN over towards the arrest. It's the first time that both teams will actually be matching up on this kind of shield composition. No, actually, I think they have already. I'm struggling to remember now. No, okay, yeah, but it will obviously be Sungood. No, they have not. It was Starlight playing it on their defense, and WGS had played it on other maps. And with that, Sungood's got to swap up and say, you know what? Not yet. Maybe not yet. Not now. A little bit later on. Still Spera and November in for now, so no Taka, no hit scans. Trying to get the Sombra Echo gameplay into SLT's quarters, and final opportunity here. Match point found by WGS. Vulture on the Soldier, who, by the way, did get a very important buff. So Soldier, unironically, is quite a good pick.
All right, then. Starlight, show me what you got. You set up everything for this dive once again. Let me see how well you can execute on that game plan. They've come in with a real sense of clarity, I feel.
It's anti-dive for WGS. We already saw what Vulture can do with that Torb. It's Hidden's turn now. November learning his lesson, will take down the turret first instead of dying to it. That's already an improvement. I like it.
Sungun doesn't quite make the connection, unfortunately, to that ledge, so they do have to back down to the low ground, take a different approach, but instead they lose Violetta's mech, so already kind of snapped the hamstring on this one.
Taking their time to take down the Baby Diva. You can see the damage from Vulture here as well, who's getting healed long range from Albam and Nimrong. Just porting November. Making sure that November is reminded of the fact that Vulture is very close by, and boom, a turret straight away again. That time, he was actually low enough to die to the turret, assisted by the fact that Vulture already had some damage in first. But it is still the second time November's died to turret.
And you can bet he's feeling that. That's a real tough one. I mean, he's, like you said, he's died to both Hidden and Vulture on the Torb with the turret now. But here we go, this dive a bit more successful. But he's having taken up the turret for one thing. Gives November a bit of breathing room. The nano boost well delivered. Oh, but dies just shy of a Primal Rage. That's a heartbreaker. They've at least got a bit of presence on the point, but that presence is going to be lost so fast. And a nice Bio Nade just to keep Bono and RPN at bay to maybe even finish one or both of them off.
I mean, Allbam's whip shot there completely destroyed Sungun because he couldn't quite get more damage done. And then the Primal Rage surely would have been in place. So that's the difference between getting a Primal Rage and not. Like a couple more seconds of throwing out Tesla cannon damage, and well, you couldn't because you were booped off. WGS now, with their losses in place as well, will get them back into play. It's defender favored for this A defense. Vulture with attack visor available, and that could be big going forward as well, because there's not a lot of damage mitigation via that. It has to make sure he's got enough defense, make sure he's miss.
This is definitely going to have to be the moment here. Going hard on the attack visor very early on that. Sungyun does take a bit of a shellacking, but he absorbs most of that ultimate. It's going to be the damage now down on the Molten Core. Not quite across the point, more covering its approach, but they've isolated November and managed to find a pick. That's really big. Speran never went in on an EMP as well, which is fascinating to me, because there's not a whole lot WGS could do against it, and instead Starlight just kind of whiff another push.
Also, WGS were very, tightly packed on that upper side as well, where Vulture had rejoined the team using attack visor. He wasn't on the other side of the map on the opposite high ground anymore. And usually, okay, if you're looking for an EMP and the enemy's too spread, it's going to be difficult. Versus a double shield, the EMP is one of the biggest tools, so that is something that Starlight have improved on in terms of composition. Vulture's trying to do some spy checking here. Sparrow has spotted this double shield opportunity. Here it comes. It needs to be an EMP now.
Straight on in. That's a good dive in the early takeout and hidden as well. Sungyun able to survive that first thrust as well. Violator, unfortunately, D-Meg just shy of being able to reset with a self-destruct, so that's a good trade there from Starlight. They've got the closer respawn here, WGS, so that's good.
Oh, Jesus,
the Vulture
dude.
just goes absolutely off. I mean, what more can you really say about it?
That one extra damage on the soldier rifle makes all the difference, and he's not even being damage boosted. He doesn't even have a mercy. He doesn't even have a discord coming through from a friendly Zen. It's just all base default soldier damage, and it is devastating.
5 even seconds left, and look at this. WGS is already running interference on the approach. The Starlight take. They do squeak one back to touch the point, but they've taken out Maka underneath behind them.
There's 2 techs.
Great kill onto Vulture. Better kill yet onto Hidden. And now they've got the ultimates to boot. This could actually do it. Look at that. 11th hour for sure. Really clean finish there.
Like, what are they doing? They went for a wraparound play. Like, that was so unnecessary. You see them go low ground behind SLT. They went to SLT spawn, and they played their app matrix there, and all SLT had to do was back out and go to the point, which they did, and suddenly we swap sides. WGS are now the attacking team, and they attack directly into 3 ultimates from SLT, including Blade Primal and a self-destruct. Like, what is going on? WGS got tricky there. All they had to do was be disciplined, stay on the high ground, play the angles, play the double shield without moving, and SLT would have been in trouble. WGS gave that away. Unbelievable how hard they threw.
Bit wacky. This is recoverable. I want to start giving some credit to Maka, by the way. He's had excellent Bionade after excellent Bionade, and I mean, it feels like it's slowly but surely starting to really put on the pressure to WGS. Starlight is starting to get more and more out of these great lands. Now on this defense, Starlight just looking to rotate into a more favorable position for this fight, but WGS are quick in the counter rotation. Look at this, they've just taken the reverse angle. They've cut November off from behind. Oro doesn't get much out of the Gravitic Flux, but they're still able to win that close quarter scrap there. So Starlight just get weirdly out-rotated while giving up all pressure on the cart.
Okay, well, WGS, they have the ultimates available here. They drop quite a few into it. Notably, they will end up saving the rally here with Olbam on 1 HP of Wrong dead, but still, Olbam is not going to fall. WGS, a large number of kills here. Vulture just doing more than enough. I mean, it's Vulture backed up by Supercharger. We talked about the fact that he hasn't had a Discord Orb friendly. He hasn't had a Mercy Pocket. But how about a Supercharger for 50% extra damage? Let's go from 20 damage per shot to 30. It'll hit some breakpoints for sure. EMP up available now for SLT. You would love to see Spirit drop this on Arpin and Bono. Well, maybe he'll just die.
Okay then. Sungin's still going to go in for it. In for a penny, in for a pound, or indeed in for a pounding. The Primal Rage.
He better get a kill. Though. There it is.
Okay, he's found Vulture. That's good. That's important. That just sort of helps bring things back a little bit, but unfortunately with the loss of November, hasn't really evened things up as much as Starlight would have liked, and now starting to run out of steam, waiting on this rally. Overwatch looking low, needs to live here. Does get that rally off. Good manual hack on Bono, just forces him back a little bit. That's the thing, WGS can afford to give the space. That's a decent EMP. What else can they get done with it though? Because Sparrow's already dead. They haven't been able to get the follow-up they're looking for. That rally still got pretty great value out from Albam. Now they drop Overwatch's own rally. Not so hot, I'm afraid. Sungun with that nano boost, gonna get finished off. and not quite a beat cap. This is looking super winnable now for WGS.
EMP cancels the Amp Matrix as well, but apparently it's just not enough. November with the final blade attempt coming on through. To be fair, it wasn't going to be a blade that gets you any purchase. Your team's entirely dead, but whatever, pull it out, see what happens. Couldn't quite get it out of the sheath once more. WGS, even with that, they still had Bono with that flux just to force a C9 if anyone was going to be contesting. Did feel like Starlight were in borrowed time here. Feel like they probably shouldn't have capped A, and all of the rest of the progress on B was gifted over from the fact that WGS were having to reset on their double shield. But once they did, once they dug their heels and once they bunkered up again, it was hard for Starlight to find purchase, especially when you had that big supercharge into tank visor play for Vulture. Massive damage, and WGS seemed indomitable from that point forward. But still, they gave up A unnecessarily, just tried to do some random stuff when they could have just played normally and won. Now WGS, they'll have to do a little bit of extra work.
But only a little bit extra. That's the main takeaway, I would say. It still kind of just feels like their map to win right now. It's just, like I said, extra work. Achievable, if you will. Always like that there's a store on this map called Sigma, by the way.
And a hero that was getting played called Sigma. Do you think Sigma shops at Sigma? We'll find out in the next episode.
I hope so, because there's a little like hexagonal thing there. I know his hyperspheres, they're not even spheres, they're dodecahedrons. So
yeah, they are. They're hyper dodecahedrons. They're D20s is what they are. As if you roll a D20 on, in fact, if you roll a double D20, it instantly deletes the other player from
actually,
the server.
I have a feeling they might be 12-sided. 20-sided.
Really? Oh, no, you're right. They are D12s. I think they are D12s. Sorry, they're not dodecahedrons. They're just decahedrons. So
his damage caps out at 12 plus modifier.
Okay, well, right now, we're looking at a fat dynamite from Spare Up, but Sungun's in a little bit of trouble here as well. That'll actually transfer over into possibly healing for Mac, and now Overwatch is taking a decent amount of it. They can't afford to lose their main tank, though.
Sungun, nope, he's done for, and Hidden is nicely set up here with this firing line as well. Great pressure onto Violetta, who's just sort of having to hug around this high ground. He can't afford to just throw himself at the point until they can maybe get Sungun in for a recontest. But WGS know it. They've read the play. They know that they can take the fight to Violetta to stop him from coming in with that reinforce. They'd also taken out November, forced the res, and then taken out November a second time. That's salt in the wound if I ever saw it. Indeed, the wound gets stitched shut. They reopen it to put the salt in. Oh, look at that. Look at them. They're on a tear right now.
By the way, don't even need the May. The May doesn't make sense in this composition at all. The May doesn't really offer too much, but still, it's like, why not? Yeah, we'll just keep it on. Yeah, I mean, the May would have been good if they probably expected that Starlight were also playing a risk on the defense. That's why there's a May. But they're so far up now. I mean, the green box of victory's ahead. Arpin's already sitting on the truck, just spamming. SLT will be coming through from the high ground. Palo is slowly, steadily moving forward. And you know what? Both teams at least have ultimate, so Starlight, they can make a real game out of this. Primal's important, so is Nano.
The card's pretty much on final approach as well. Starlight are going to try and make this wraparound play here. Go in for it. Dive up onto the high ground, try to get onto this back line. Immortality field, they are forced back out of it. That's a nice final to a Rog. He at least gets the window down beforehand, so that's kept a lot of the rest of Starlight at bay, but certainly hasn't stopped Spera with the free fire up from below. Doesn't mind, looks staring down that amplification matrix. He feels he's got the damage. November following up as well. Exceptionally cheap fight win for Starlight. That was only a nano boost.
Yep, it's exactly what you want. This is what the power of the Nano Winston can do for you. It's been rare today. We haven't seen a lot of Nano Boost getting those wins, but right now it's what Starlight need. So Nano to Sungun, November getting some frags in, huge damage, WGS don't respond. I wonder if they chose not to respond, not too sure there. I mean, they actually have so many ultimates that if they wanted to, they could play into it, they could have easy have rallied, easy have dropped the Blizzard down. That'll have to happen now, get rid of the bomb first, play the rally, and WGS are ready to go.
Seems pretty straightforward for them. So now they just put the pressure on forward. Sungun gonna have to go for something here, keep them disrupted, but WGS, nice self-destruct up from Violetta. Trade 1-for-1. Takes out the structures there, that self-destruct. So you've just lost Spera and Hidden both. Sungun finally getting one on Vulture, though. That's the big fight. Takes the Blizzard off the table. Let's see what Bono gets done. Not the hottest gravitic flux, unfortunately. November still sitting pretty on a duplicate. They have started to Run lean on ultimates here, Starlight. Good number being forced out by WGS, but WGS have committed pretty much all of their own as well. The res on Sungun, they've got a nano boost to keep the pressure up, keep this fight going. They've drawn a pretty hard line in the sands here at this point, starting to look more and more like a barbed wire fence than just a measly little divot in the ground. Starlight will hold WGS at bay again.
Big turnaround for November here, who just gets kept alive there, receives a nano, does quite a lot of output in terms of the damage, and Maka even getting a second nano in that time is pretty good. As WGS this time don't get to walk away with ultimates in the back, they had to spend quite heavily. That's 3 ultimates gone from the half of the bank gone, and Vulture still on this May because the Blizzard's available. At this point, you'd love to see Vulture go back over towards the Soldier, which was so good on the defense. But just not willing to give up the Blizzard, understandably. You need to see the Blizzard this fight.
November going in on a Sigma player, very much appreciate out of him. The extra tank pressure for one thing, but also a good gravitic flux could be a real game changer for them. There we go, commits it directly onto Arpan, who is otherwise fine in the middle of the fight here. Oh, big fight onto Sungun. That might just sell it down the river, unfortunately. WGS, they lose November just as they get Sungun back. They lose Violetta just as they pop a nano boost into Sungun. They lose Sparrow just as Sungun pops a Primal Rage, and it all falls apart around the main tank. Unfortunately, Sungun not able to rescue it after that initial death to the Deadeye, and this one, the Gravitic Flux on the point, is celebratory.
Wow. Looked like they were nearly going to hold there. Looked like it was possible. There was, what, 2 minutes left? Oh, well, okay, maybe I'll take that back. There would have been still 2 more minutes of that, and
WGS
WGS eventually...
plausible.
Yeah, I'll give you that. It was looking like, you know, it's within the realm of possibility. A bit more of a page turner there as WGS weren't quite on the right comp. At least the May wasn't really doing too much. You'd eventually probably see Vulture swap off over towards a Soldier, maybe his own Echo. And then at that stage, if Starlight can beat WGS's proper composition, then we're talking about a possibility of winning Numbani. But at that point, it kind of still was WGS slowly marching forward. I don't want to say they were playing with their food, but they didn't really commit to several of the fights towards the end there, strangely. Especially that the first initial fight onto B, they kind of just let that one go, came back, played a poor fight with 3 ultimates, still held on to the May ultimate with the Blizzard, didn't play that at all, strangely. But they had time on their hands. I think that was the biggest thing there. They got through A more than comfortably, only had to get to the end of B, and that was it. So good
That's
stuff
the
there.
thing. It just kind of feels like, you know, for all the other things you can unpack about WGS's side of things, it honestly feels like Starlight were just they were so many steps removed from victory there, really. Like, a lot of things had to continue happening that weren't even guaranteed to happen in the first place. And by the way, that would have only been one map win. They would have rescued a dire situation, still been held up against match point moving forward. We would have gone straight onto WGS's pick. I think the path out of this series was already looking pretty rough for Starlight long before they were on that long B defense. So with that all being said, we say goodbye to Starlight, and congratulations WGS moving forward.
And a further congratulations for the player of the match. Yeah, a couple of players who performed quite well, but ultimately I'm biased for DPS, and Vulture have really popped off with multiple heroes. Echo on our second map in Temple of Anubis there, speaking of Numbani, there was that Soldier player that was quite good. Even the Torb, just finding value. And no, I'm not just talking about the fact that there was a turret kill, just the general mechanics on the left and right clicks of the Torb and Temple of Anubis. Wrong had some great plays. That's probably the honorable mention here over towards the Ana. Fast nano charges. You have to take into account one thing. The fast nano charges is also relying on the fact that your team needs to be able to take enough damage to transfer over to nano charge without dying. So there's a little bit of help required on your tanks to make sure they can give that damage over and convert it into nano charge. So good stuff there from a Wrong and Vulture. And also, his McCree at the end was beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like, again, I just kind of bring it back to the same thing I've been saying all series long. It feels like WGS at every single juncture just had a clearer game plan, for one thing, and they executed on that game plan without really any speed bumps, all things considered. Starlight, it never felt like the approach was as top down, if you will. I feel like the credit has got to be there for WGS, and the unfortunate thing about that is Starlight, we were kind of talking about this They don't make it into the top 7 either. So not only do they get eliminated, they also get relegated. If they are making it back in subsequent seasons, they're going to have to brawl their way back through the very contentious trials field. WGS, on the other hand, not only do they continue their potential run into the playoffs, they are also guaranteed a spot in the next season. And I also kind of want to mention this because obviously the opponent they come up against is GC Busan, an opponent that they have lost to. However, I really feel like WGS have powered up in the last couple of weeks. I don't know that I feel the same way about GC Busan, who also coming fresh off a pretty devastating loss to BM Hawk. So with that, let's actually go ahead and reflect upon the circumstances of the day. You saw that BM Hawk 3-0 against GC Busan, competitive in some instances, but ultimately BM Hawk just had a consistency that GC Busan lacked. Starlight as well, lacking that consistency of WGS Phoenix. And now WGS Phoenix, they're kind of looking at BM Hawk going, I think we can do that. We can do that too, right? I honestly think GC Busan might not win their second bout against WGS Phoenix despite beating them in the group stage.
Yeah, it's a strange situation we find ourselves in because GC Busan have been the better team in the regular season, but they look so weak versus BM Hawk. WGS, okay, they beat up on Starlight, but two questions need to be asked here is it because BM Hawk are that good, or is it because Starlight, on the other hand, are just not good enough? So WGS may be getting they look better because they were facing weaker competition, or GC Busan looking weaker because the competition they faced was so strong. It's quite interesting how that kind of matches up now, and the real test will be tomorrow to see if GC Busan can sort of make that comeback happen. Should be a close game. I don't expect that GC Busan will falter too heavily tomorrow at all. They had a great matchup versus WGS in the regular season against a team that, all things considered, should be far closer to their own skill level.
At the very least, it's going to be looking quite contentious. And once again, you know, the thrills don't stop. We go straight into another elimination matchup tomorrow. I mean, if today was two high-stakes matchup because one was advancing and the other was eliminating, tomorrow is, you know, double for your money because one team advances and the other gets eliminated. The stakes could not possibly be higher short of a great grand final itself. But that does mean that for tonight, we are all done and dusted. Tomorrow, we will finish off the play-ins. Like I said, it's June Part 1 tonight. Tune in for Part 2, and, well, I guarantee you it's going to be getting made. Thanks very much for tuning in, and good night.